Here we go again, round two. Good morning, Card Kings. It's your boy Scott Leonard, back at it again, your favorite YouTuber's favorite YouTuber. It's pretty early, but I decided I'm going to try and do a streamathon while I work. For those of you guys who don't know, I'm a software engineer, so I have a lot of free time on my hand while making those big bucks, the big bucks that you wish you were making. Today, we are going to be watching some random YouTube videos. Mostly, we're going to start off with the motivational stuff. First video is going to show you the secrets of how to become a millionaire, which I myself am working on at the moment. I just want to show you guys that anything is possible. Like I said, software engineer here, tons of free time, making the big bucks, driving supercars, going out with friends, eating great food, chilling with my girlfriend. And I want you guys to be in the same situation. So hopefully this stream inspires you to live up to your dreams, never give up, and work hard. First video we're watching today is from Lewis Howes. It is basically a shortcut on how to become a millionaire in 1 year. I watched a little bit of this, but I'm going to start over because it was a long time ago. Hey, what's up, Alex? Hope everything's all well. By the way, how'd you find my channel? But yes, this video, very interesting. He has a lot of good insight. So let's go ahead and get started. Like I said, very interesting video.
It's because I am working harder now than I worked to get here. And it's because I've learned.
A lot of people don't like this guy, but I think he has pretty good insight.
If I had thought the way I think about business now and work now, I would have been here faster. But for the court of Alex, I know what it's like for me to give it my all, and it's the absolute proudest I am of myself. And there's no.
Hey, good morning, guys. Just doing an early stream. I'm going to be working intermittently, so you guys gotta excuse me if you see me step out. Well, not step out. I'll just turn around. You'll probably see my side while I work on some tasks that I have this morning on my main career path.
We both know a lot of wealthy people.
Even though, to be honest, this job that I have, pretty slow.
Jets and multiple homes. And
hey, what's up, Andy? Thank you for joining the stream.
Do you think the people that
Hey, Alex, how'd you find my channel?
A lot of money.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Or do you know more people who are wealthy who are unhappy than happy?
I think it depends on how they got their wealth.
And by the way, guys, if you have any videos or anything you want me to react to, feel free to drop the link in the
and I think
in the chat.
Without getting into the why, I'd say that's just my observation. For the people who earned their wealth, I would say many of them are. I would probably say the same smorgasbord as the rest of society, maybe with like one movement upwards, because money cannot buy happiness, but it can help you avoid pain. And so I think that's the hard part that is difficult. It's the same thing as health, where like you can, money can help get the hospital, get you out of the hospital hypothetically, but it's not going to get you into super fitness status. They're completely different continuums.
He's 100% right there. There's a lot of people who have money and they're completely unfit or unhappy.
Versus gaining joy, I think, are two completely different journeys. And so I think money helps absolutely decrease the punishment that we experience in life and the pains that we have to deal with, or inconveniences, for sure.
Why do you think some people, I agree with that, and there's also some outliers where it seems like people with a lot of money almost have more problems, more pain, more stress, more overwhelm. Yeah. Maybe it's too much to handle, or everyone wanting something.
More money, more problems. Where do you think they got that term from?
How do you learn to manage the approval or people-pleasing of others once you have more money, especially your own family, your own friends, who are now saying, oh, you've gone beyond where the rest of us are financially, and I want some of that, or I have an expectation. How do we overcome that, navigate it?
I wholeheartedly reject all of it.
Reject what?
All of it, any expectations of me. And so my litmus test for doing deals, for
unfortunately, I do have to agree with him. In this world, the people that get ahead the most are usually the people who are in it for themselves. It sounds really selfish, but it's 100% true. As you gain status and influence and money, a lot of the people that you started out with will start to drop off. Some of it out of envy, some of it out of just the sheer fact that you're advancing way past where they are, and they're not able to relate to you. So they start to drop off. The same thing happened to me when I got my supercar. When I got my first supercar, a lot of the people I used to talk with dropped off. And even that, well, first of all, a lot of people didn't consider the car a true supercar. It was a Porsche 718 Spider, which is, I guess, the top tier of sports cars. But my old friends started to drop off just by themselves once I got the car. I ended up making new friends while I had that car. And when I had that car, I started telling people, well, the next car I'm going to buy is either a Lamborghini Huracan or a McLaren 570S. And as I did that, people, first of all, a lot of people thought I was just talking to talk. When I actually went out and got the McLaren, a lot of those people also started to drop off. So what he's saying is 100% true. A lot of your friends will start to feel either envious of you or they will start expecting you to help them out in some shape. Oh, crap. It is. Let me see if I can fix that. Because I'm seeing my frame rate looks pretty good. It's still lagging. And by the way, I've been streaming for like 5 days. But what I was going to say is that a lot of people expect you to help them out somehow. Yeah, the 718 Spider was an awesome car. It sounded great. It had great handling. The McLaren has also been a pretty great car as well, except that I've had some mechanical issues with the McLaren, so right now it's in the shop. But like I said, a lot of people become resentful. When they see you becoming successful and growing as a person, they start to become resentful. And they also expect you to give them some sort of handout, and they get really irritated when you don't. Or some people just drop off. That happens a lot. A lot of people start off close friends, and once you start leveling up, I don't know what it is, but they just stop hanging out with you. Even some of the car friends, like I've never told someone like, oh man, you have a Corvette or you have a Mustang, don't hang out with me. But unfortunately, you start hitting them up and they actually don't want to. I think that also part of it is, for example, I had a few friends that liked racing, right? And when we went out with the other cars, they would race us. And when they're racing with you, and they're able to beat you sometimes, like they like that feeling of like, oh, I beat this guy. But once you get a car that's so much faster than what they have, they kind of don't want to hang out with you anymore because, they can't beat you. Like, what's the point? I guess is what they say. My dream car, the Aventador SVJ. Aventador SVJ or a Bugatti Tribolon. The Bugatti is like my extreme dream car, top tier. The SVJ is a little bit more reachable. Honestly, I think like if I put my head down, grind for a year, I can probably get an SVJ.
You have to. It's actually the first conversation I had with Layla when it was our first date. So our first date, I pitched Layla on quitting her job and working for me because I was like, this might not work out, but you should totally work for me. We'll make a bunch of money together. And I said, this compensation has to make sense for you independent of our relationship. So like if we're not together, does this still make sense? If it makes sense, then we're cool.
It's on your first day.
And also the reason I'm streaming so early is because I want you guys to see what my day is normally like.
It's clear. It's all talent, you know.
The Bugatti Chiron. Well, actually, no, it's not a Chiron. It's a Tribolon. It's the new one that came out with maybe like.
Would you give somebody with
4 months ago?
The bookkeeping job? Now, if she's a 20-year bookkeeper,
Then yeah, maybe.
Maybe. And to be fair, but would you pay the bookkeeper $200,000 a year? I don't know. You probably wouldn't. So I believe in making all deals as though you weren't friends or you have no relationship. And if it still makes sense, then all of the relational benefit becomes as a bonus.
Yes.
Rather than I'm going to amend the terms of the deal because of this amorphous value that we have, which can change.
See, but this is what I'm talking about. This is what is a key factor in being extremely successful. So most extremely successful people, they do not cater to the whims and needs of the people around them, unfortunately. So he's basically just saying, like, you got to live your life and do what you want to do. Don't worry about how it affects other people. As long as you're not hurting anyone, don't worry about how it affects other people because at the end of the day, you're here alone. You're here alone. You got to focus on what your goals are and make those goals at any cost. And that's just how it is.
then conditions can change and you will still both always feel good about the deal because it was made without the relational component. Because sometimes you have good days with your mom, sometimes you have bad days with your mom, and all of a sudden you're like, I can't believe I'm paying her $200,000 a year, right? I wouldn't.
Unfortunately, Andy, I mean, I'll take a look at them, but I'm also a graphic designer, and I know how to do animations myself. I just don't see the need for doing it at the moment. Eventually, I probably will add animations to my streams.
And if the answer is no,
but at the moment, I don't see a great need for it. But go ahead and feel free to send me the animation links. I'll take a look at it.
Two candidates and they're identical, which would be impossible. But if they're identical, then yeah, maybe I would give it. But like they have to still meet all the standards, and then that way you give objective, quantitative. Like do these things, and then we can have this outcome.
Right. Seems like a lot of young people want to make a lot of money. People want to make a lot of money. People are running a lot, but it seems like, at least if I'm thinking of social media context, you see a lot of young people in their 20s, early 30s that are striving for that. And they're striving for it fast.
Yeah.
They're striving for it, I just graduated college and now I want to get there in the next couple of years. What do people in their 20s not understand about making money or reaching millionaire status that they really
So right now, this morning, what I'm doing I am changing out the graphic assets on an application for the company I work for, which is a pretty simple task, but it's very tedious. So that's what I'm doing, if you guys are wondering.
Now, if you're in your 20s, it's very difficult to do the amount of activities for a long enough period of time in order to get that. Now, you've got Ben Francis, who started Gymshark when he was 16 or 17 years old, and when he was 28, it was worth over $1 billion. So he was in his 20s, and it was, he made $1 billion company. Is that the exception? For the most part, yeah. That's not as common. I became a millionaire when I was 26 or 27. I can't remember. It was between 26 and 27 is when I had my first $1 million in my bank account. And so, but I started business when I was 22. And so I still had 5 years in. And now that's still fast. Don't get me wrong, it's still fast. But the accumulation of knowledge, because I spent almost all of my excess income on education. And so I wanted to pay down my ignorance tax as fast as I possibly could. And so rather than buy the Bentley or buy the watch so that I could flex on it, I still split a room in a house with 6 other people while I was making $20,000 a month take home. Because I wanted to have all that money so I could go on the offense if I wanted to go to a seminar or buy a course or go to a workshop or whatever it was, so that I could up-level my skills and get there faster. And so I think the idea that you want to get there fast is fine. It's just having a realistic expectation of how many skills you need to acquire to get there. Because if you have all
I agree with him. The most important thing is gathering the skills as a young man. Unfortunately, there's many ways of doing this, and it can become very overwhelming for most people. That's why a lot of people tend to pivot towards courses. I, in my entire life, have ever bought a course. Everything I've learned myself, including the current job that I have right now, making a high 6-figure salary. I taught myself that skill set, but I do understand that a lot of people do lack the ability to focus and learn something on their own, and thus the fall into courses. The problem with courses is that there's good courses and there's bad courses, and there's so many courses. And also sometimes you'll find a good course, but it'll be broken up into so many parts to milk you. So I don't know. Personally, I am not a course guy. I am more of a research on my own, buying books kind of guy. But a lot of people just aren't like that. So sometimes, they need the little extra help of getting a course. It's just you got to be very careful. You might fall into course purgatory if you go down that path.
Because I think we'll have continuously younger and younger and younger millionaires and billionaires that are going to continue to happen, because now a viral idea. I mean, Taylor Swift was 16 when she started recording music. That was a long time ago, right? She's 33 now. Now she's a billionaire.
You keep showing up consistently and building it.
Mr. Beast is a billionaire. He's 24.
Crazy.
So it's going to continue to go down as the access to education increasingly gets democratized, so more people can access it for free. And so a 9-year-old can watch. There's nothing that stops a 9-year-old from making and running a Facebook ad. There's nothing. And usually they're more tech savvy anyways.
Maybe they just got to get a credit card or something.
Sure, yeah.
And so
but if we break it down to the physics or the action,
it's not that hard.
There's nothing that prevents people. And so I think that the level of competition will continue to rise. I think young people are more tech savvy, and so will in general have a continuously improving competitive advantage over older people, because the rate of technological change hastens, goes faster. And so the advantage of being young versus old is actually, I think, going to continue to expand because tech moves so fast now that I think there will be more.
What do you think about, I mean, I had a mentor once told me when I was 24, when I was broke on my sister's couch, and I was living for free.
Yeah.
I was not paying rent. I was, eating leftovers. Good life, man. And I remember saying to a mentor, I was like, man, I could really use some money right now. Like, I could really figure out how to make some more money.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, money comes to you when you're ready for it. I was like, I feel pretty ready. And he goes, yeah, it could come, maybe you get it and you're not ready and you lose it all because you're not emotionally ready.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have to people in their 20s who want to make a lot of money, but if they're not emotionally ready, what might happen to them?
Everything is trainable. And so if we define handling money as a skill, then it can be learned. And so you can look at anything. Like if you were somebody who continues to hop from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing and you can't stick with it, it's usually because you don't have the skill of sticking with something. You haven't been rewarded enough in the past for staying with something, or you haven't been burned enough from starting over. Like on your 5th time of starting yet another thing and not getting deep enough on it, you have to think to yourself, maybe this isn't the right way to do it. I love giving this kind of like S-curve analogy, which hopefully your audience will enjoy. But there's 5 stages as I see it as somebody goes through the entrepreneurial journey when they're starting out. In the beginning, you've got the midline, right, where they start. Step 1 is they go above the midline, and they go to uninformed optimism. They see the grass on the other side, it looks greener, and they're like, my buddy's doing drop shipping, and he's making all this money, and that's going to be me. And then they buy the course, they start watching videos, they start to connect things break, they buy some inventory, they don't know how much to buy, and all of a sudden, they go to the point 2, which is now below the line, which is informed pessimism.
This is hard.
Yeah, they find out all the things that they didn't know in the beginning. They paid down some ignorance debt, but there's still more to pay. And they're like, okay, wow. So they keep going because they're like, I got to figure this out. And then they go to point 3, which is the valley of despair, right? Which is where they're like, this isn't going to work. This is never going to work. And one of the hardest costs, and this is like what entrepreneurship feels like, if I can give it to anyone who's new to this, is the feeling of uncertainty that you don't know if all of the work that you've been spending all of your nights and weekends and off time investing in will ever pay off. And so it's this
100% right on this one.
But the reality is that the outcome isn't the thing that you're building. The person you are is the person that you're building, and that continues to work. And so there's a proverb in the Bible, I'm going to butcher it, but I think it's in all labor there is profit. And you can rephrase that as as the work works on you more than you work on it.
Say it again.
The work works on you more than you work on it. Mm-hmm. And so it's about who we become while doing the work more than the outcome from the work itself. Because like I lost everything 5 years into my entrepreneurial journey, but I still had all the skills and beliefs that I had from before that. And then I was able to reapply those and then have a really, big outcome in what we have today. And so I remember when I lost everything that first time, I thought, did I just lose 5 years of my life? Like I just moved back. I'm at ground zero again. But I wasn't, because I had all these skills that I had learned, owning and scaling 6 gyms at that point. And so point 1, uninformed optimism. Point 2, informed pessimism. Point 3, value of despair. And then go to point 4, which is informed optimism. So now you do have a lay of the land. You understand that there's some skeletons. You do have to understand how you manage some inventory. You got to get ahead of some of the stuff, but you learn how to forecast. You can know that weekends you tend to do better and weekdays you tend to do less. And so you can dial back support on those days and dial it up on the other days. You start to recognize patterns. And so you start to know what you're doing, right? You're paying down all the ignorance debt. And then finally, step 5 is you achieve whatever the original goal was.
This thing I'm working on right now for work is so freaking confusing, guys.
Then they jump back to step 1.
I'm over here like looking at it. It's like so goddamn hard to do.
Yet again, the grass is greener on the other side, but what they don't know is that it's still.
But that's why I get paid the big bucks, boys.
And so there's always everywhere.
Let me get into real estate now. Let me get into this.
Right.
Investing,
wholesaling and day trading. Right. Of course, there's all these quick make money things. But if you look at the people who are making the most money in it, they spent usually a significant amount of time. And I'm saying this again, but I'm bearing it for repetition. Is that the Rocky cutscene lasts 2 minutes in movies and might last 5 years for most people, or 10. And I remember my neighbor, I met him when he was 15 years old. He now works for us at acquisition.com. But he, this is a cool story. So he's 15 years old and he's like, I want to be an entrepreneur. And so he worked out with me every day for a couple of years at my home gym. And so
is he jacked now?
Never more jacked than me. And so he then goes to college. And after his first semester, he's like, I don't know, like this is, I'm studying business. And I was like, dude, are you willing in this or not? Are you really doing this? And he was like, well, I'm not, school's not really blah, blah, blah. And I said, the world doesn't need another 3-1 business degree. Either crush school or don't go, if your goal is entrepreneurship. He's like, well, I want to be an entrepreneur. And so I apparently told him this, that he remembers because he brings it up all the time. But I said, you are afraid of going all in on entrepreneurship because staying in college is safe from an approval perspective. So you're doing all these side things, but you don't have to bear the brunt of not failing because you're still in school.
Yeah.
It's like, so you need to get rid of that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so he quit school.
This is the same thing that I was happening to me when I had my 401k.
To the point we were making earlier,
You have a safety net, and the safety net actually holds you back from taking risk.
I was like, it's going to be up to the sales manager, and I'm not going to tell him that I know you. He was like, okay. I was like, you better be prepared. And so he did get the job. To be fair, the qualifications for frontline caller is not super high. And the reason that I started him there was because I actually walked in on him one day when he was waiting for me to go work out. And I heard him on the phone trying to do one of these wholesaling, real estate deals. And I said, did you close the deal? And he said, no. And he said, I'm not sure if real estate, the wholesaling thing's for me. And I said, well, have you heard you on the phone? And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, you sound horrible. You can't sell anything.
You don't have the skill.
Of course. He said, well, how do I get good at sales? I was like, you work on a sales team with somebody who's been there before and can tell you what to do. And so I got him the interview. He took the job. He became the top salesman on the setting team.
Wow.
And then he became, the outbound team. Then he went to the setting team, which is the second rung of salesman. They qualify the leads. Then he became the top one there. And then he got to the top of the Christmas tree, which is closers. And he became the top closer.
He learned skills.
Out of 26 guys.
Wow.
Big team. And a lot of these are men, have families, kids.
Wow. And how much can you make as a top closer?
$250.
$250 a year.
Yeah.
It's pretty good money.
Yeah, it is good money.
For a 21-year-old, 22-year-old?
Yeah. Yeah. 19 at the time.
19, making $250?
Yeah.
That's life-changing.
Of course. And he had to learn how to talk to men. Talking to gym owners, 40-year-old gym owners, telling them how you can help them with their business.
Wow.
Right. Takes balls. And so I bring that up to say is that when you're starting out, you need to focus on learning rather than earning. Now, he obviously earned, but it was because he quickly fast-tracked his learning process. And so I think one of the biggest hacks in the world is getting paid to learn. Like right now, we have this big societal context of like you pay in order to learn. But what if there were a world where you could get paid to learn? Well, that is what working at a company is if you're mindful of what career path you want to get into. Now, if you're like, I don't know what I want to do, then I would recommend starting with a meta skill. So sales is going to, like, if you learn how to sell, it'll work in any company you're in. If you learn how to market, it'll work in any company. I mean, to be fair, if you get into HR, a zillion businesses need HR stuff, if that's what you like. Now, if you're like, I don't know what I like, well, you also aren't going to like anything unless you start, because we usually only like things that we're good at, and we usually aren't good at things that we start, right? And so the only way to get good at something is to do a lot of it. And when you start, you suck. And so a lot of the time, there's this fallacy of finding the right thing.
This thing is getting more and more confusing, man.
Almost every entrepreneur has had many, many, many businesses, and most
getting confused while I work on it.
Success. It's because each one of them stair-stepped, and so
it doesn't really matter because when I'm done, I have to go back and check this work anyway.
It's really, you got to pick something, and then you'll learn all the inadequacies that you have no idea about once you get into it. Like I started a gym when I was 22 years old. Like brick and mortar, signed a lease, say $50,000.
Yeah.
It was stupid. I had no idea.
For those of you guys who don't know, Alex Hermosi is the owner of like 20 freaking gyms.
I had a mentor early on,
which is crazy.
That's correct.
Right?
So you could get advice to learn from.
Yes. I mean, it was still incredibly hard. But I was able to just get, suck everything like a,
fire hose,
like a vacuum cleaner, to get all the information I needed to just barely keep my head above water and then things started to work out, because every weekend I'd go and drive over to a gym owner and say, why do you do this? Why is your lobby like this? How many leads do you convert? How do you call, like whatever? And so I just kept doing that every single weekend, because I was such a young guy. Everyone was,
help this guy out.
Of course, exactly. And I owe a lot to those older entrepreneurs who helped me out. And so in some ways, a lot of what I do at acquisition.com is kind of my small way of paying it forward.
And one of the cool things is when you're someone who's getting started and you're going out and humbly asking for advice, but you're taking the actions. Hey, I'm launching this thing. I'm taking the steps. I'm just trying to figure it out, but I'm taking the actions and I'm in the process. People usually want to give advice and support and say, hey, why don't you come check out and we'll go out for lunch or whatever it is. But if you're just saying, I want to do this, but I'm not taking any action, people are less likely to help you. Maybe they'll help you a little bit, but if they see you struggling and trying and like leaping before you're ready, it's like, all right, cool, let's help you get it going.
I love the saying, luck favors the prepared. So like if you want to go ask, Lewis to have you on, or to get Lewis on your show, right? Well, what do? You don't just ask Lewis. You show how much you've prepared. You say, hey, I went through 50 hours of your content. These are 9 questions that have never been asked to you before that I think would be really good. I've got 2 buddies of mine from college who are going to also video it. I've got this church basement that I can get the lighting to look really cool so we can make cinematic. Because to be real, I know I don't have the audience that you have, but I can help at least give you clips that will distribute and actually convert for you. And hopefully that's enough of value add. Now, Lewis might not say yes, but if you do that 100 times, count in hundreds,
right?
One Lewis will say yes.
Right.
And everyone loves to help people who help themselves.
Yes.
Always. Because the biggest fear that anyone who gives advice has is that someone takes the advice and does nothing.
Exactly.
Because they didn't learn. They didn't change their behavior.
That's true.
Right?
It's a waste of the time.
So you don't feel like you're teaching. You only teach if they change their behavior. If they change their behavior, they learned. And so many people like being a teacher. I think a teaching role is nice. I think most people feel good about it. But you only feel like you have a teaching role if you see a change.
And someone takes action,
right?
Yeah.
You can hack the whole system if you just show people that you'll take initiative.
Yes, dude, I'm seeing your chat. I am in the middle of a live stream. I will check it out when the live stream is over.
They wanted me at the table.
Yeah.
Because
I appreciate the link, though.
Even though I was young and broke and struggling, they were like, hey, this guy.
I hope you guys are watching the video because it's actually pretty educational. He's spitting facts here. Alex Hermosi in this video is cooking.
To the late night dinners at 2 a.m. with all the speakers, and they were like, hey, why don't you come tag along, young guy? You bring us a lot of joy, at least, right? Even though you have no clue what you're doing, you can't offer anything else but joy. But you're asking me some interesting questions that people don't. So, I'm happy to talk about myself for another 20 minutes.
Totally.
And you get in the room, you get access, and you take action, people will want to keep supporting you.
Totally.
Because you're applying their teachings, and people like that.
Makes them feel important.
It does. It validates, I know something about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And that's good. You want to keep helping this person grow. What do you think your 85-year-old self needs to tell you now to get to where you want to be faster?
Oh, it's funny that was the question. He would tell me.
Speaking of the mentors.
He would tell me, why do you want to go faster? Be like, why can't it take 10 times as long?
From 200 to a billion?
Sure. Why not? Like, why
does it need to be 5 years or 10 years? Why can't it be 50 years?
Right. If it took 50 years, but then it all happened at once at the end, would you like that? I don't know. Right? It's kind of like the man who lives an amazing life and the last day everyone finds out he's a fraud, or the man who lives his entire life with everyone thinking he's a fraud and then in the last day of his life, he's proven right. Which one would you rather be?
If you're gone, you're not going to get to experience the fruit of it all. But...
Interesting question, though.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like the painters that become famous once they're dead.
Yeah. And so I think, 85-year-old me, I'll tell you the recurring themes that he works on with me. Patience is a big one. Focus is a big one. Sticking with what I committed to. Focusing on the controllables of like, what are the activities, what are the actions that I have to take? And being okay with potentially varied outcomes. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but being consistently divorced from the outcome, but trying my absolute damnedest to make sure that everything that is in my control was done to the utmost. And we started there, but it's hard to understand the context. Like you hear people say this, like it's about the journey, it's not about the destination. And you hear people say it's about doing the stuff. It's not about the outcome. And you're like, yeah. It's easy for you to say when you have the outcome.
Right. When they've already made the money.
Of course. I get it. But if you can make that flip, like it's just, the hard part is the action is so much greater. If you really measured yourself by the actions you take, then you might be embarrassed. So you really hope to measure yourself on the outcome because you can get by on sometimes winning when you don't deserve it. And so 85-year-old me never lets me win when I don't deserve it.
Ooh, man, I would rather lose, but know I gave my all than win and be like, I just kind of just barely showed up today.
Right. You would know.
I won, but it's because I had an inferior opponent. It's not because I played my best. It sucks to lose.
Or because you just got lucky.
I gave everything, every ounce of my energy and every trick and skill that I had to play this game and win it. I came short.
Hey Andy, I said I'll take a look, but at the moment I am not purchasing any animations or any type of graphics whatsoever. I will take a look, see if I see anything that stands out to me, but at the moment I am not purchasing anything because I said I already know I can make animations myself. I'm a digital animator, I'm a software engineer, and I'm a graphic designer. So I don't need anything at the moment. I will take a look when I get a chance, but I can't promise you anything.
It's my sophomore year there. My freshman year I went to another school, so I transferred into this school. We're playing, and it's a tight game at home, back and forth. Can't remember the final score, but we lose by a touchdown. I score 3 or 4 touchdowns. I think I got an extra point. I got a 2-point conversion, and I had 17 catches for 418 yards. And we lost. In the last couple plays, we didn't score to go and win. And I remember being the last one out of the locker room. I was in the shower. I was so upset that we lost. And my coach comes in. It's kind of an awkward moment because I'm in the shower, in a exposed open shower. I'm just like kind of pouting and like sad and depressed or whatever. And just like in there, everyone's gone. Yeah. I'm sad we lost the game. And he kind of comes around the corner and says, "Hey, Lewis, good game. Just to let you know, you broke a world record today." And I go, "What?" And I go, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Yeah, you had 17 catches for 418 yards. No one's ever done that in the history of a football game. You're a new NCAA all-record holder." And I go, I'm sad and depressed and angry because I didn't do more to help us win, and we lost. Yeah. And at the same time, I hear that I did something that no one in the history of the world had ever done in the football game. And it was tough because I felt like, man, we lost, but I gave it everything. Yeah. But I was like, but could I still give it more? It's like, I don't know. Yeah. But I feel like, you know what? At least we didn't win, and I played to a lower level and didn't create that result. Yeah. At least I created something that for me, I can be proud of, even if we lost. It still haunts me that we lost. Interesting. But I know because we were behind, I had to give so much more than I was capable of. Yeah. And if we were winning, I wouldn't have gotten that effort out of myself. So it's an interesting dynamic. Yeah. It is, because I would wonder if you had that same exact experience, but you didn't break the world record, or no one ever told you, whatever. Exactly, right. If you would still, because you said that you had the sting of the loss, and I wonder if Lewis today would feel that way, because
I think that this part of the conversation is a little bit of cap.
But I feel like on some levels,
like, come on, dude, you're not worrying about some high school game 20 years later.
Okay. Of course, yeah. But there are certain times from like, I know I could sprint after the guy, even though I'm probably not going to get, but I could give it the last 20 yards. Yeah. Right, exactly. And I think that this is where 85-year-old me is the one that he is ruthless. And I love this David Goggins saying, I don't know if it's a saying of his, I heard it in one of his videos, but he said, "There's no shortcuts for you, Goggins." And I just really love that. Like, he doesn't even look for them, because he said, you don't get those. You don't get shortcuts. There are no corners to cut. And that to me is like the embodiment of that 85-year-old self, because he knows if I could have sprinted or not. And so it's, if I can appeal to that man's incredibly high standards, which is why, like, commit to the journey is not the easier path. I think it is the harder path, because the standard is higher. And when you really do that, the winning does happen by default. But even saying that still makes winning the objective, right? And you're just saying this is a different pathway of getting to winning, but winning still kind of matters. It does matter. I think it's a both. The journey matters and the outcomes matter. The more because the outcomes also give credibility. Yeah, they give more context. They give more experience. They give more wisdom. Yeah. To the teacher. Oh yeah. If you had no outcomes, but you said, "Look at all the efforts I put in, though." But I put in 10,000 hours. Yeah. But I haven't sold a company. I haven't built anything because this is really it didn't work. Yeah. You need it both in. Yeah. This is really interesting, because on some. So I think I'm like really liking this. So from a fulfillment perspective, yes, I believe that truly giving your all, actually, not like try your best. That's just like, it's repeated so many times that it's lost its meaning. But leaving everything on the field, having the tank on 0 or empty when you walk off and truly knowing and looking at yourself in the mirror like, I could not have done anything more. And it's tough to do that because we're naturally built to conserve effort, right? And so you really have to push and overcome the internal mechanisms that you have that say don't sprint the last 20 yards.
Put a little more, yeah.
Right. And that's why, like, when I walked on stage for the presentation, I was like, I have done this before. I am prepared. I could not have prepared more for this in any way that would have been reasonable. And so to that degree, I can still define success that way. The outcomes will happen. And I think it's still that little thing where it's like, do this in order to, you have to cut off the in order to. I really genuinely believe that, because I remember when I was in my retirement year, which is, I still own the company, but we were in the process of selling. I had nothing to do. And it was an incredibly depressing year for me, which is why I've oriented my whole life around work, because
Great talk. I think they're yapping a little bit, but still, at the end of the day, great talk.
I remember getting really angry about this and thinking, like, it's not you work hard so that you can. It's like the hard work is the point. Like, the point is how hard you learn to work. And that's the whole point where, like, what has changed from last year to this year?
What they're saying is 100% true. If you focus on the process, you put 100 in the process, you will get results. It's impossible for you to put a bunch of effort into something 100% and not get results.
Did I give it my all? And I try to play out, this is a stoic frame, but like, if I had like a hurricane go through and we had not been able to launch because all the energy would have been gone. Let's just say hypothetical. And we did all this prep.
For your virtual event. Yeah.
Yes. Would I have been proud of the effort that I put in? The answer would have been yes.
You still be let down and disappointed that you didn't get to do the thing.
Yes. But I think that it would have been short-lived, because I think that is, like, if you asked, like, early on, what has been the biggest difference for you specifically? And this has been whatever you even call it, superpower, secret, whatever. Like, this is what has been allowed me to keep my internal temperature separate from the external temperature to the greatest degree possible, is knowing that I'm using my internal thermometer to gauge my success. And I'm not perfect by any far.
Right.
But the more I do that, to use your example, if I had worked my absolute hardest for 10,000 hours and I knew that I gave it my all and I had nothing to show for it. Now, I've actually had that instance because 5 years ago I lost everything.
Right. No external results to show for it. Yeah.
So I do know what that's like. I think at the end of your life, you would still be more proud of the man that did his everything, gave it his all, left it all on the field, even if he didn't win. And I think that would be the man that I'd be more proud to be.
I hear that. And I'm also like, if I reflect back, if we lost every football game,
yeah,
I think winning matters also. You've got to have some wins.
I think that I've completed the task, first portion of the task I have at my job right now.
Sure, becoming a better athlete.
I'm just rebuilding the application to check my work.
Just always losing
I wonder,
would be a challenge.
Absolutely.
Because you'd be like, this is not fun. It's fun to win. It's not fun to lose consistently.
Yeah.
You learn more in your losses, probably. Totally. You learn more from the bigger breakdowns and the challenges you face than always winning.
Yeah.
The difficulties, the challenges develop us. Having easy wins doesn't make us stronger and better. But I think having all losses may just say that, okay, maybe this is the wrong thing you're in. You should be in something else.
Yeah.
Use this energy and effort and attitude towards a different thing, a different purpose, a different sport, a different mission, a different art. After a period of time.
After a period of time, you do a value cost analysis and you determine whether you should continue the task or not.
The confidence comes in the effort and the journey.
That's why a lot of people will see you do something and they will say, like, for example, my dad, he would stop me and say, oh, I see you always starting things and you never finish it. You always quit. I'm quitting because I can calculate that the value I'm getting from the risk I'm taking is not worth it and I should just pivot to something else.
Yeah, no one
100%.
That's okay.
But how would you feel about you? After 10 years,
totally.
15 years of busting it.
I did it for 5 years. I get it.
Okay, but 10 years though.
Like 50 years, right?
Right.
I think, but that's where I'm saying, like, what has changed about me that has made me better, stronger, faster is because I genuinely believe that the more I can divorce that win, even when you say, like, you got to win sometimes, it's like even that small statement still makes it king.
Yeah, easy for you to say with couple
all the
hundred
wins,
million.
all the wins.
Yeah, easy for you to say at this
I
stage,
know.
like you said to others.
But
right?
I think that the reason that I'm going to go from 100 to a billion and 10 billion and beyond is because I do genuinely, like, I am working harder now than I worked to get here. And it's because I've learned a better way to work. And so this is me sharing that better way to work. Now, to be fair, maybe I have certain skills that if I don't work as hard, I can still win. But I would still know. And so I think that if you can, like, if the whole point of anyone who's listening to this is that you can open up another level of effort, I think that is the next level of effort. Because if I had thought the way I think about business now and work now, I would have been here faster. And that's me catering to the audience who wants to win. But I'm saying I would have become who I am faster. And I think that as a result, I would have evidence that would support that for the court of public opinion. But for the court of Alex, I know what it's like for me to give it my all. And it's the absolute proudest I am of myself. And there's nothing anyone can do to take that from me. And that's when I feel bulletproof. And there's not many times I can do that. And so when I have realized how much work it takes to do something well, to gain the approval of my 85-year-old self, I also realized hand in hand that there's only a few amount of things that I can do. Because I have to be dramatically more focused, because the amount of work it takes to do something well is so much greater than I used to think, that I can't do 20 things if I'm going to do it well. And so it goes back to like one of my favorite sayings, which is if it's worth doing, it's worth doing well. And the thing is that most people focus on the back half, but I think it's focusing on the first. Like, most things aren't worth doing. If it is worth doing, then it is worth doing well.
Cut out the things that aren't worth doing.
Right, so that you have all of the energy to actually give your all to something. And I would say this is that most things aren't that hard if you really try. It's that most people don't know how to try hard. They don't have the skill to try hard. And so the number, I mean, you probably know this stat from the podcast world, right? Which is it's 90% of people only upload one podcast. Of the remaining 10%, 90% of them don't make it past 20 uploads. So to be in the top 1% of podcasters, you have to upload 20 podcasts.
Right. It still may not be successful.
Yeah.
You still may get downloads, but you're doing a lot better than the other 90%, 99%.
The price for excellence has never been so cheap.
Yeah. It's showing up consistently.
Everyone is so soft now that to win, you just have to not be made of glass and be willing to have someone tell you, I don't approve of your life. And you say, that's okay.
Why do you think so many people are soft in our society today?
Well, I think we've put a lot of guardrails up that prevent people from getting hurt. And I think that ends up resulting in people who don't know what getting hurt feels like. And they feel like it's death, but it's not death. You know, I think that's just, I mean, at its absolute core, no one knows how to have hurt feelings. And I think people think their feelings matter a lot more now than they used to. Yeah. I don't think they matter that much.
Why do you think people's feelings matter that much?
Why should their feelings matter? Why should my feelings matter? Like if I hurt someone and I say, well, it makes me feel good, why does that matter? You hurt somebody. So it's just looking at the actions. And to be fair, I'm very extreme in that manner. But I think that if we can, for me, the more I can ignore my feelings and simply do the things that are required, the more I tend to see the results that I want. And one of my favorite internal sayings, like the things that you repeat yourself, I'm sure everybody has like a couple things that like you say to you. Whenever I have something that I'm like, God, I want like the next rewrite of the book, or hey man, we got to reshoot that whole thing because the mic was off, or you know, the
worst. Yeah. The worst, man.
Is I have this refrain that's been trained faster and faster, which is I will do what is required. It's not what I want. It's not what I feel like. It's I will do what is required.
It's not enjoyable.
I will do what is required.
Yeah.
And that's it. And so like there's not a question.
Part of being a software engineer, it's always checking your work.
Yeah. You try to learn from
I just thought I finished doing some tasks that I need to do.
You got to do what's required.
In Jira, if you guys are software engineers, you know what Jira is. But when I went back and checked it, I realized that I had a few mistakes. So I'm going back right now and fixing those mistakes.
I see these clips a lot online. I want to start actually listening to this whole show, but I think they go too long. But they have a lot of great insights.
Yeah.
It's like these four like venture capitalists and they're all billionaires and they all like are puppet masters in their own world, right? And one of the clips was of a guy, I can't remember his name, but one of the guys who said he was spending a lot of time in Italy over the last month or a couple of months. And he was saying, you know, I really like spending time over here because my friends in Italy know how to relax. They know how to have great conversations. They know how to talk about life and art and magic and wonder and music and not just focus on more money because this guy's a billionaire, multi-billionaire. And he was like, there's more to life than just making lots of more money when you already have a lot of money. What do you think about a point like that or a conversation?
He's right,
like that,
but our culture doesn't tend to lean in that direction.
Live in Europe and take 3 months and relax and travel. And
I think there's an overarching assumption, which is that life should be a certain way. And I think that I would reject that notion. And so it's like we should, because implied in that statement, I think, is we should be more like them. And whenever I see a should, I kind of don't really accept any should frames. It's like, why? Why should we? Because you prefer that, which is fine. You could say, I prefer to live this way, in which case go live that way. But to then say everyone should live that way, or, you know, then now you're casting your personal preference on everyone else. And I reject that wholeheartedly. So if you want to play video games all day and be the absolute best in the world at it, and you are the best in the world at it, and you get Twitch sponsorships and you have all that stuff and you learn to eat because you're so good at it and you're so obsessed with it, who am I to stop you from doing that? You're going to die and I'm going to die. And at the end of your life, would you rather just go, you know, be a foreman at a factory? That's not a disrespectful thing. I'm saying more so that if you love doing what you were doing, choose to not do what you love because you now are legitimate in the eyes of people who you don't care about. Like, if there was one rule from me, is do you.
Do you? Yeah. I wanted to ask you about this. This book launch just happened, and I know you did a vlog on this recently, which I want to dive in deeper. But can you give big context? Why this book? Why the launch style that you did? How many people showed up? How many people bought? And upsells everything. And how did you get that result to happen? Not that we focus on results here, but the efforts. How did you get it all to come to fruition?
So my first book, $100 Million Offers, was a book that answered one question, which is, what do I sell? And so now that has 17,000 5-stars, and you know, it's
incredible, man. It's a great book.
Actually, it's still on Amazon charts, top 20 of all Amazon, and so is that one. So it's 2 of the 20. Right.
Not that we're calculating results or success here.
Of course. And I didn't even sell it on Amazon. I sold it on Shopify. So all those sales didn't count. But anyways, this book, the purpose of this book was to, once someone knows what they're going to sell, they ask the next question, which is, who do I sell it to? You need leads, right? And so this book is about advertising. Now, I split test the title 4 times to figure out what people like. I tried marketing versus advertising. I tried advertising versus leads. I tried leads versus promotion. And leads won as the categorical leader for what to name the book. And so that's why I called it $100 Million Leads. But advertising in and of itself is the process of making known. If no one knows about your stuff, no one can buy it. And so
say that one more time.
If no one knows about your stuff.
Sorry, the first part. Advertising what?
Is the process of making known.
Advertising the process of making known.
Period.
If no one knows about your stuff,
no one buys it. Right. And so what happens is most people have an offer and no one knows about it. And so you have to make it known.
Trial and error, guys. Trial and error. That's how
this book,
so the system
first
works.
All hinged on something.
That's how software engineering works.
Hey, provide value. But how do you?
That's how life works.
Operationalize value. And so it was actually solving a problem that people want, increasing the likelihood that they think it's going to happen. In other words, decreasing the risk that when they buy, they're not going to get the thing that they want, decreasing the time it takes them to get whatever the outcome is, and decreasing the effort and sacrifice that's associated, the work that they have to do in order to get the outcome. So those are the 4 variables. You decrease the last 2, you increase the first 2, and you have a more valuable thing, which we covered in a different video, so you can watch that one. With $100 Million Leads, I talk about the advertising cycle. And so there's 8 pieces to this. So it has a little bit more pieces to it, but I think it's simpler to understand in some ways. So the first 4 is a core 4. It's the only 4 ways any person can let other people know about their stuff, advertise. And so it's just a 4 box. There's one-on-one and one-to-many, and you've got people who know you and people who don't. So if you're letting people who know you one-on-one, you are doing warm outreach. You reach out to your friends and say, hey, come to my book event. If you're letting people know one-on-one who don't know you, that's cold outreach. That's reaching out to strangers. If you're letting people know one-to-many, 2 people who know you, that's posting content. And if you're letting people one-to-many know who don't know you, that's running ads.
Okay.
So there's the only 4 things that you can do to let other people know about your stuff. Now, the natural question is,
sense.
are there other things that you can do? The answer is yes and no. No, in that you can't do anything else. But yes, there are other people who can let people know about your stuff.
And
Right. And so there's 4, which I call the lead getters. So you've got customers who can send you referrals. Now, in order for them to send you referrals, they use the core 4. They either reach out to friends, they post content, they do the same 4 things. So they're the only 4 ways a person can let other people know about stuff. The second is you've got employees, right? Like, so when I was making content for the book, I didn't actually make the content. My team made the content, and then they posted it on my behalf. And so I got leverage on the amount of content I could put out because I had other people help me. From the paid ads, from the lead getter number 3 is agencies. So you can pay agencies to help you make content. You can pay agencies to help you run ads. And for me, for this book launch, I had agencies run the actual ads for the book,
right?
Because we're a holding company, we don't actually transact, so it made sense to contract that out. But my team made the ads, their team ran the ads, but it was still leverage. And then finally, we had affiliates. So that's another business who refers you business. And just to find it for the audience,
and they get a commission. Yeah,
they get paid in money, free stuff, or both.
Right.
And so we had 27,000 affiliates.
27,000,
and we had 104,000 people who attended from affiliates. We had 137,000 people.
Cow.
137,000 people came in from paid ads. We had just like 210,000 people came in from content.
Organic.
Yeah. And then the outreach. And then I would say that employees kind of factored into that piece, right? And so I used all 8 methods in the book to advertise the book itself. So I could have just emailed my list and just, done a presentation or just released it, and I probably would have sold a lot of copies. But I wanted to use everything in the book to advertise the book, to demonstrate that everything that I do here works, and that it'll work for them too if they just follow the steps in the book. And so I purposely followed the scripts that I have in the book for making ads. I followed the scripts that we had for making content throughout the whole thing, so that people could look back at my ads, they could look back at the content that I made.
Final try. Let's see if this actually works for me.
World record breaking.
I know you guys don't know what I'm doing on the other screen, and I can't show you what I'm doing because of NDA.
Which is not.
But let's just say that I'm troubleshooting an issue and I'm struggling to solve it.
Did you pay out affiliates, which is another form of advertising? How much does that pay out, I guess?
But overall, it's a pretty laid back job.
How many
I'm probably gonna work until after my first day meeting.
Then you get commissions.
Correct.
And then after that, I'm free.
Nothing. Really? Why did they?
And this is my daily routine.
What was the leverage or the value add for them?
I think it's goodwill.
Wow.
But this is only something that will happen to you if you are a person who's able to add value to a company.
Most people require money to advertise to their audience because
you get more free time, the more value you're able to add.
And so what I made, rather than saying, hey, the top 10 affiliates get Lamborghinis, which only benefits the affiliate, not their audience, I said the top 10.
Right now he's cooking, I'm going to be honest.
With your entire audience.
Wow.
And so,
but it's easy to hear somebody speak about something and not put it into practice.
It doesn't extract any goodwill. In fact, it builds goodwill.
Hey, UK Build, thank you for joining. How'd you find my stream?
I know Alex, I've been following his stuff forever. It'll help you out. So go do this thing. And if we're in the top 10, we'll also get, time with Alex, and we can answer answer questions and do this stuff so we can apply it to us. So it's a win-win for everyone. And so trying to find, in my opinion, I talk about this in the book, the best way to use affiliates is to find a win-win-win, which is it wins for me, it wins for them, and it wins for their customers.
Interesting.
Right? And usually it's only 2 wins and 1 loss.
I hope you guys can't see my screen. The other screen, my work computers. I have an NDA. I'm not able to actually release or show what I'm working on.
Hopefully nothing but provide.
So hopefully you guys are not able to see it. That would be a big problem.
To be probably
but right now I'm just troubleshooting an issue on the application and debugging something here.
But upon the events, we had so the official count was we had 542,000 people who registered for the event. We had 188,000 click to join live with us, and it was wild, right?
How many book sales in that first day? Do you know?
We sold 100,000 in 10 minutes or something. Yeah.
That's insane, dude. That's incredible.
And that was with no large bundles.
Wow.
So that wasn't buy 100, get this.
It was 1, 2, or 3 maybe.
3 was the largest one that was incentivized.
Wow.
Yeah, so I just said if you buy 3, you get a hat. And the main reason that I did that was because the whole mission of acquisition.com is to make real business education accessible to everyone. And so it's if you share my book with 2 friends, you've earned this hat. And so this can't be bought, only earned. And so you earn it by giving it, and we had 50% of people who chose to
get 3. That's incredible, man.
And so,
was there an upsell after that, or how's the?
That was it.
That was it. Wow.
I mean, if I had wanted to make money,
right, you do coaching.
I would have been it would have been a very different. I would have structured things very differently.
Mm-hmm.
But the objective of the event was to demonstrate that the concepts of this book work. And the objective of my last book was to show that making an amazing offer can grow the sales on its own. So that one I did 0 advertising for, and it sold 500,000 copies.
Wow.
None. No paid ads, no event. I had 10,000 followers on Instagram when I posted that. It was before Alex Ramosi became Alex Ramosi. It was literally an internal SOP that Layla encouraged me to post as a book. So I said, fine. And I added stories in it to make it interesting for my team. Because I was like, if they don't read it, it's not going to matter. So I added stories in it, and then I posted it as a book. And then it just continues to sell more month over month. And so that is the hope, obviously with this book too, is that you make the product so exceptional that you get that lead getter bucket of customer telling other customers and affiliates telling other people. And I think that
I just realized that my asset catalog,
if I ask people,
I added the images of the wrong asset catalog.
Be worth it, that I have to
God
absolutely deliver on that, so that next year or 2 years from now, if I say, hey, we promote my next book, they'll do it. Now, if I had gone and sold whatever, some coaching thing or something like that, right? That would have been the last time they would have promoted me, because I would have been
for free.
Right? Yeah, I would have been siphoning their audience or whatever. But I wanted to just install even more goodwill at scale by doing something that hopefully would be memorable and that no one else would do. And so I made a huge pitching presentation to stack all the value that I gave, with this book. And I price anchored it at $12,000. Then I started,
you started
dropping down. And then I was like, it's free. And then everyone, it became a much more memorable event. And then
the book was free, or what was free?
The book's free too. The book's free too. So the course is free. The book's free on my podcast. So on the game, I actually also made my offers book free as well. Just because people are like, Alex makes his money on the $2 that the book costs. So I just to dispel the myths, offers and $100 million leads are both on my podcast in sequence. You can just listen to them straight through.
But if you want it all together in a physical book, you got to pay.
Yeah, if you want to pay for, I mean, physical books cost money to print and ship, so you
right.
pay for that. But it was.
But otherwise, people can get it for free on your podcast.
Correct.
And we have to just.
And the course is on my site with no opt-in. You don't even have to opt in for it. You can just have it. And so, what I will say this you might find this interesting, is that it's always the scariest thing in terms of giving. Like, giving is always scary, no matter how much you have, whatever it is. Like, if you work really hard on something, there's a part of you that wants to monetize it, right? It's innate to us, right? You want to get something back. And so that's why it's so hard to delay gratification for such a long period of time. But it's also what will make you stand out in a marketplace of takers. And so that was what I have consistently, I've preached this message of just give, and you will be able to grow faster than you can imagine. And the event was probably the largest demonstration of that I could do. And what has now happened since then is, we're number 1 in business on Spotify. We're 19 in all podcasts. From doing that, we get 150,000 unique views a day on my site.
Wow.
Okay, I'm building the application again, and I'm going to see if what I just changed fixes the issue.
And they know that it's a $20 book.
As you guys might have surmised, I work for a pretty large company, one of the biggest,
people will share it. And I think that's the thing, is
one of the biggest
because they would spend no time
telecommunication companies in the country.
It's junk, and then associate that junk.
The project I'm working on has an NDA, so I'm not able to share it with you guys. But what I'm essentially doing right now is troubleshooting a bug, changing some image assets, and changing some text on the screen. And it's kind of tricky because there's multiple sources of the text, and I had to change the locations of the text, the names of the files, and remove the previous versions of the text. And I'm just going back and forth. My engineering style might be a little different. I come from a self-taught background, so I tend to do a lot of hacking when I'm resolving an issue, and that involves a lot of rebuilding and checking the work just to make sure it is functioning properly.
Something that is going to counteract.
When I'm done doing this, though, I'll probably be done for the day.
More important than it is today, and I think will only increase in importance. And so this was a brand play.
That's incredible.
And so, we sold 190,000 copies so far.
The first, week and a half, 2 weeks?
Yeah, 10 days or 11 days, whatever it's called.
Man.
Yeah.
190,000, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, with no 1,000-pack bundles.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's inspiring. What are the how many pieces of content do you put out a day on all social media platforms right now?
We put 300 a week out.
300 a week.
Yeah.
And if you could go back to 2 years ago when you only had 10,000 followers,
Yeah.
to now you have 5 million on all platforms in 2 years, what would you say to your younger self, 2 years younger, about the path to getting here?
The honest truth, I wouldn't say anything because I wouldn't want to mess anything up. That's the real.
Do you think you could get there by posting less?
No, I think the volume is, quantity creates quality. Like you learn how to do things better by doing more of it. And so I've wholeheartedly embraced that perspective when it comes to making content. But I do believe that it's not just because there are people who will post every single day and they get zero engagement, etc.
And they don't learn and improve.
You're not learning from it.
Right. You need feedback. You still need feedback. You need to take the feedback from the market. And ideally, you can also have feedback from people who know more than you. And so you use those two feedback mechanisms. And the faster you can make that feedback loop, the faster you'll learn and change your behavior and get better. And so you want to do tons of volume with tons of feedback because quality is better than quantity, but you only get quality through quantity. And the only thing better than that is quantity with quality.
Correct. Then you really start to grow.
Yeah, and then you get wild in terms of all the different platform distribution. Yeah, it's been a super fun ride. I'm very proud of the book.
Yeah, it's great, man.
I know that there's nothing else that I could have done to make the book better at my current level. Maybe in 2 years,
Right.
I might have been able to. I wrote it. I did 19 drafts. I had full rewrites. I did 6 hours a day for 2 years.
That's great.
So I worked from 6 to noon every day
on the book.
Wow. And then
Unless you were here doing an interview with me.
of course. And then the afternoons. My afternoons when I do my meetings and take calls and do the remainder of my actual job.
Right. The only thing that I would add to this conversation right here, I'm sure there's a lot more, but the thing that's popping out for me is people could hear that and say, okay, you could keep working on this for another 2 more years until it's perfect. Because you said, I like what you said, is you put it out at the current level that you're at. You couldn't have done anything else the way you're at right now. Maybe in 2 to 4 years, you would have been like, I could have changed this a little bit. I think a lot of people get hung up on that. They wait. That's not ready yet.
Yeah.
And this isn't ready for yourself 10 years from now, right? It's not as good as it could be in 10 years writing it.
Yeah.
But it is as good as where it is right now for your current self. And I think people need to learn how to also ship quality with what they can do it now and not just wait forever.
I think a lot of people hide under the guise of perfectionism when it's really just laziness and fear. So the reality is they're like, it's not ready yet, but they're working on it 3 hours a week.
They're not going all in, obsessing about it.
So I mean, I think the whole it's tension between two extremes, right? You've got the MVP, which means minimum viable product. Ship it as fast as you can. If you are proud of your first product, it sucks, right? And on the other hand, you have Apple that ships a new product every 3 years, or and they really only have 4 products and built a $3 trillion company. So where on this continuum do you lie? And I think it's learning the right to, it's honestly probably matching your personality to the work that you do, but regardless, work has to be done. And so I could say this, it's like, if you work on something for 6 hours a day, every single day, and you truly work on it. When I say work, I mean, you set a timer, and when you step away or you look at your phone, you stop the timer. When you do 6 hours of actual work on something every single day, you will know the things that you could do to make it better. And if you do all of those things, and the difference is being very clear on the problem definition. So that's, okay, so this might round out this whole conversation. If you're really clear about the problem that the product, if we're talking about making a product, is supposed to solve. And so I could then, of course, write a whole book on sales, and I could write a whole book on, monetization. I could so then the scope would then change. So you have to be ruthless with the problem definition of the scope of whatever thing that you're trying to solve is. But then within that very narrow line, is this everything I can do in this tiny little sliver? If it's everything that I can do, then you can ship it. And so I think you're not going to create the everything solution. You're not going to create HubSpot CRM when you're a coder in your basement, but you can probably create an autoresponder that works exceptionally well.
Mm-hmm.
And so do that. Just do that. Don't add the other. Just make one of my favorite stories about product iteration was Dragon dictation. Do you know Dragon? Way back in the day,
No.
90s.
Right.
And so you got a headset, and you would talk, and it would type. And this was had a CD, the whole thing.
I remember this now.
And they got lauded, praised by like Tech Magazine or Crunch or whatever it is for Dragon 2.0. And in Dragon 2.0, they literally added 0 new features. They just made it work better. And I think that is like the spirit of true product innovation, is that a lot of people think they need more bells and whistles, but if you just fulfilled the first promise that you made and really did it and did it better, then you can make 10 times more money by doing something twice as well. Because it's just how much better. Like if I said
more efficient, yeah.
If I said I can get you customers, I don't need to also hire your staff. If I can just do that, I fulfilled my promise. And this book specifically only sits between somebody who doesn't know you exist and someone says they're interested in what you have to sell. That's it. As soon as someone says, I would like to find out more, that book is done. Everything that 280 pages is to get you from, I don't know.
He's 100% right, but I feel like a lot of people don't understand the concept of just stabilization.
How to get strangers to want to
Even where I work right now, when we're working on a project,
yeah. And that's the
they
thing.
keep adding more and more features when in reality, what the customer actually wants is just that the features that already exist work properly.
Acquisition.com.
Yeah.
They can follow
And that's
you
how it
everywhere.
usually is with all things. Same thing with my YouTube videos that I'm making right now.
I would get this.
It's not about making tons and tons and tons of videos. It's about stabilization and making the videos more entertaining or provide more value for the user.
Hardback, if you like hardbacks,
Because that's what they really want. That's what they're really here for.
Shop.acquisition.com. I'm sure if you just go to the site,
where I
you'll
make
see
all my money.
all your $2.99 in books. Exactly. If people are business owners that are looking to be a part of your portfolio, I'm sure they can go to acquisition.com and they can learn more and apply and see what's going on there.
In business owners, it's just for absolute clarity. It's really like if you're doing $2 million or more in profit. And we have actually narrowed our focus a little bit more to brick and mortar chains. So we've just crushed all the brick and mortar chains that we have invested in. And so we are
smart.
We are at
It's
least
also
for
what you
temporary.
know best of. You did brick and mortar.
Yeah, I mean,
So you're speaking into it.
we've done
You did gyms. You know,
we've
physical
done
location.
photography studios, we've got teeth whitening. We've like if you have like a health or a beauty, I call them like body services, anything.
Tanning
that-
salon. Or
Yeah, exactly. You know,
Nail
tattoo
salon.
removal, laser skin, hair removal, that kind of stuff. Like that is our jam.
There you go.
Yeah, that is our jam.
They'll reach out to you. They can message you. They can go on acquisition.com. Get a few copies of the book. I think this is really inspiring. I love this stuff. I've been doing a lot of this for the last 10, 15 years on myself. And I went through this and I was like, oh, there's actually some stuff that I can really start to apply even better. Even though I've, mastered to a certain level, there's so many different things that I was pulling out from. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I can steal like an artist. Here. So
Control X.
yeah, I was like, this is really smart. Yeah. So it doesn't matter if you're a beginner or if you're, got a big business, you're going to learn something from this. So make sure to get a few copies, give them to friends. I can't wait for the next one. I can't wait to have you back on in the future soon. Grateful for you, Alex. Thank you for being here. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
You guys are savages. I appreciate you all. And man, I was about to curse. Can I curse on this show?
We bleep it out, but you can.
Okay. Anyone who tells you otherwise, do you? I actually think in some ways, the lazier you are, if you can get over the initial hump, the more successful you can be. Because what happens is if you give a hardworking person a problem, they give you a hardworking solution. If you give a lazy person
That's a good
problem, they give you
point.
a lazy man solution.
What's the easiest way to do this?
Right?
That's-
And a lot of
that's the
times, some of
point.
the best problems in the world get solved by deciding they're not problems.
What do you mean?
It's like,
I'm not planning on watching that other video, but that's such a good point he's making. Lazy people will always come up with the solution that's easy.
Channel on YouTube, Carwell. 7.5 million subscribers, and you're getting
Okay, guys, next video, we are watching my boy, Matt Watson. And I think that this title is a little bit of clickbait. Matt Watson on CarWow ownership. Supposedly, he's not the owner of CarWow. But anyways, I've been wanting to watch this video for a while. I've had it in my playlist for a while, and I think that it would be great to watch it with you guys. So let's go ahead and see what it's all about. Matt Watson, big time car YouTuber from the UK. Let's see what he has to say.
video as well, which is
go.
unbelievable. We peaked at like 75 million views in a month compared to like Baby Shark is nothing. In the car world, it's quite large. Tesla's got to be overvalued. How can Tesla be worth more than Toyota? It can't. It can't. It's not worth more than Toyota.
So Google tells me you're worth a net worth of about £1 million. I guess that's a little light. What's your words on that?
Blimey.
Matt Watsman has such a great character, guys. Had the opportunity to meet him once about a year ago.
Come directly to
pretty
you.
chill guy.
Or do you have a percentage of that?
No.
I'm hoping with the successes, Scott, because you've got like 7.5 million subscribers, and you're getting on average more than 1 million views per video as well, which is
7.5 million subscribers on YouTube is like $8 million a year. So his net worth value, well, he's probably has employees, editors, and all that. There's probably a lot of overhead, but still, it's probably higher than 1.1 million pounds.
Yeah, so originally,
I would think.
Didn't even have ads on the videos because we just wanted it to be like for helping consumers and let's tell them about Carwow. But then we thought we'd better turn on the ads.
Did you find YouTube didn't push it as much about the ads because they're not making money off the back of it?
I've got a theory about that they don't, that you're better off having ads in your video.
We think the same thing, but they would never say that, would they?
No, but they don't. When you speak to someone at YouTube, it's like they know less than you.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they hire people specifically.
It's
just
obfuscation of the truth. They don't want to tell you the inner workings.
They want to keep you in a holding pattern.
I think they know things in their specific areas, but nobody knows the whole package.
Yeah, and there's also this thing that the algorithm is its own like animal that like evolves itself and it learns itself, and it's all very scary. But yes, basically, my theory is if your content can make more money for YouTube than someone's similar content, it will push you.
Yeah, especially if it's good quality.
Yeah, well, that's it, isn't it? So you keep people in the videos for longer on a certain topic than someone else, it will push your content on that topic over someone else.
So how does the revenue split work? Do you have a rev split?
So you get
It is
They're
interesting.
going right into it right away.
You're the face of the business in a way.
And we are a finance channel, so we're going
They're
to...
like, how can we do this? How can we make the revenue you're making?
I do not get a split
Drop the beans.
revenue from the ads. I don't. I get paid a salary, but I also have shares in the company.
Right, that makes sense.
Good.
So that's where the financial incentive is.
Because I was going to say, otherwise you might not be as focused on chasing those views because you don't have an incentive within the business, but obviously you do.
I don't know about that. You see, there's something about it that I don't know whether it's just me, but it's more the fact that you get into just chasing numbers, and it doesn't matter. It's sometimes, I don't know, sometimes money isn't always a reward for people. It's how well received the work or effort you're putting in is that gives you the buzz. And looking at the numbers, I don't know if you have this, that the buzz that I got in the early days when you saw the growth was as exciting or more so than actually trying to maintain at this like high level.
That's true, yeah.
And there's a lot of it is just dopamine hits. Looking at that's gone well, that feels nice, you know. And then
See, we're more excited about the podcast growth than the actual main channel, which is far bigger.
Yeah.
But it's just exciting having this small thing growing, isn't it? That initial stage.
And it's why, like, you know, you see like entrepreneurs and businessmen, successful businessmen who are like 80, that they go and do a new project, even though it's like, but you're a billionaire. What are you doing? Sit down, enjoy it.
Exactly.
Because it's the new projects that give you the buzz.
It is, yeah. It's growth, it's success, and it's that did better than last time. That did better than last time.
Well, talking about buzz, you get to drive some of the best cars in the world. That is without doubt. So what is A, the fastest car you've ever driven? And B, how fast did you go?
Right. So the fastest I've ever driven in my life is 212 miles an hour, and
Nice.
it was in a Bugatti Chiron
Wow.
Super Sport, is that the fastest road car in the world? It did.
It's certainly pretty
It's
quick,
a record,
isn't
but it did over 300 miles an hour, but the customer cars aren't allowed to for some safety reason. But anyway, 212 miles an hour on an Autobahn in the middle of the day, so it was quite busy.
Was everyone looking at you as you went past?
Couldn't see their faces, could you?
Going too fast.
No idea. You're just like hoping that no like little Volkswagen Golf just pops out around a truck into the fast lane. It's
For those of you who have never gone fast, when you're going over 150, it is extremely hard to focus on what's going on around you. 200 miles an hour is probably insane. The fastest I've ever gone is 168,
ever done 0 to 60.
Really?
and it was terrifying.
It's a specialist limited run electric hypercar. I'm not going to reveal what that is, but it's a very special thing.
I think I know what you drove.
What is it? Go on.
Did it have a fan underneath it by any
Might
chance?
have done.
Might have done. Well, we won't reveal it. We'll wait for people to come and see that.
So how come you've focused most of your energy on Carwell versus your personal brand? Because I noticed you are uploading on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, so that's actually just a bit of fun. So mainly on Carwell, we do like new cars, like hypercars, drag races and stuff like that. But I also have a soft spot.
And for those of you guys just joining, I'm actually working right now, and we're just doing a chill stream, watching some videos. I'll react intermittently. I'm working intermittently, so forgive the distractions.
The boy from Warsaw just likes a bit of value.
Damn, Twitch has so many bots, man. Jesus Christ. I want to get some real viewers. I don't want to get bots in here messaging me, trying to sell me stuff. Where are the real viewers at?
I like value for money.
Come on.
I'm a sucker for the offers in supermarkets. They always get me. Yeah. Like I end up buying three things when I only need one thing because
too early for this. Fourth day streaming on Twitch, and all I've gotten was, well, I mean, I've got maybe one or two real people that have left comments, but most people have just been bots trying to sell me
They
stuff.
just had a slightly different feel to them. You feel a bit more connected to them. And ultimately, the reason I got into this was because I liked cars, and I like the sensation of driving. And while modern cars have definitely got so much quicker and so much more capable and more comfortable and just better, they're not necessarily more fun. And I think peak car is around the early noughties.
I would go earlier than that because I've got a Mark 1 XR2.
Well, the problem is that these modern cars are so dead.
Taking it back and it's stripped and it's going to be fully painted. It goes in December.
Sterilized. They've sterilized the event
While we're on the subject
completely.
of hot hatches, what's your ultimate best hot hatch of all time?
Okay, so I had a Mark II XR2. I like that, but a Peugeot 205 GTI is a better car.
I see you can get a rebuilt one now, can't you? Like brand new from Lombard, is it?
I don't know that much about those resto mods, but I know they are rather expensive.
Yeah, 45k, I think.
Okay, hot hatch. Spat all that nonsense about about cars from the mid-noughties. I think at the moment the best hot hatch is I've got it. It's a Toyota GR Yaris. I've got one of those.
Very nice.
And I love it.
Yeah.
It's small, compact, fast.
Maturing is realizing that there's more than just supercars when we talk about cars.
Bumpy, narrow. It's perfect. And I think you can go as quick as that as you ever need to go.
Yeah.
And probably quicker than you could in some supercars that are going to struggle for traction or be a little bit too wide.
See, on a day-to-day basis, I drive a Fiesta ST for exactly that reason.
That's a good fun car.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
So I am a iOS software engineer. So I work with the Apple products, iPhone, iPad, the watch, and the actual, MacBook.
No, I can picture you now.
I would say that being an iOS engineer is probably the best one to go into. A lot of people start with web development, but I would recommend starting with software engineering as an iOS engineer. Primarily, tech stack is Swift. It's pretty simple. If you have, do you have any Apple products? Do you have a MacBook?
Racing circuit. I've got to present to camera. I'm probably going to have 5 laps. I've got to try and assess the car, deliver it to camera, and not kill anyone or damage the car. So, I have to have some tuition to make sure that I've got a basic level of skills.
I don't think people realise how hard that is because talking to camera is quite a skill in itself. But then when you've got to do something, you've got to hold a prop and you've got to remember your lines and all the rest of it. There's a lot going on, isn't there?
Yeah, so there is. There's not so much remembering of lines, more the facts. So I don't have a script. So in all the videos, there's no script to it. I just have bullet point facts. So it comes across as a little bit more natural. It does make it easier as well when you're on an event when you don't know what's going to happen or what you think about the car, that I'm not like welded to a story arc. It's just almost like, here we are together with this car. Let's see what I think about it.
So first, we'd like to say thank you to our sponsor, public.com. Dad, 100 years ago, when you started investing, what steps did you take to become a better investor?
Well, I used to take tips from the local meat market.
If only you had public.com back then. Public is an investing platform that not only gives you the information and tools you need to make smarter investments, they also have a built-in optional social feature filled with analysts and notable investors to share their thoughts and help you be a better investor.
Well, that sounds good, but I'm more into index funds than individual stocks.
Oh, I thought you might say that. Well, Public offers...
So if you don't have a MacBook, I think that you can still download the
And coming soon, Public will have...
the program that will teach you how to code for Mac iOS. The only issue is that in order to actually code, like to actually come up with an application and deploy it, you do need to have a
You
MacBook.
can get a free stock worth between...
I'm looking up the
when you invest with the
name of the product right now, and I'll write it in the chat.
the podcast. So how
me a
much
second.
of what you say actually gets into the end video? Like, what's the percentage?
Everything
Do you have an iPad by any chance?
when I fluff my words. The editors might cut out, or I might choose to cut out a section that's like, that was superfluous. I can't even say it. Things like that. So
Yeah.
we'll probably cut that out unless I do it about 3 times and it becomes funny, and we'll just leave it in to take the piss out of me.
We'll leave it in.
Yeah, exactly. Superfluous.
Yeah.
I've got a retainer in, you see. So I trip over that as well.
What would you say is the key to success? I will cut that.
We won't, we'll keep that
Keep
in.
that in. I'll keep that in.
What would you say is the key to success with Carwell? Obviously, we talked about like reasonably priced cars and supercars and presenting.
Damn, no iPad either.
What do you think the key is?
I'm gonna give you the name of the book anyway. I'll just type it in the chat. Give me a sec. I'm looking it up.
I think some of the other channels that were like...
This is the book I used to learn originally, and it paid off for me. I mean, I have a job making like $200,000 a year.
We came and put a lot of focus
So,
into it. And
let's
I
see
think
here.
it's this blend that we came up with, which is you've got all the information that you get from the Serious Car magazine. So everything you need to know about the car is there, right? So it appeals to people who are car enthusiasts and serious. But then we did it in a...
So if you go into the Books app on your phone
I'm going to show you around this car.
and you search for...
Dead serious. Let's have a bit of a laugh. Like we'd actually talk, rather than being some kind of like officious motoring journalist. Got to make it very sensible and worthy. So we had that element, which makes it a bit more accessible. So when people who have a loose interest in cars, or they're researching to buy their next car, and it doesn't want to feel like work, I've got to have to research, it's like boring, I'm just trying to get the facts. It make it a bit more enjoyable. So people watch it for longer, more likely to watch another video, increases your watch time. And so the algorithm...
This is the book that I learned how to code from.
This other element, which was more...
I did this book, and then after I did this book, I just watched a few YouTube videos.
Drag racing.
The most important thing, let's say, not even just learning,
Elevate the channel to
because
do these
I'm just giving you the direction that I took, but in reality, the most important thing is come up with a project for yourself. So if you want to do web development, come up with an idea, come up with a website you want to build, and then start building it. If you're going to learn Python for like machine learning, come up with a project and start building the project. The most important thing is to start building what you want to create without knowing what you're trying to do, and you'll learn how to do it as you go. Coding is not a memorization skill, it's a learning as you work skill.
I quite like that.
Hands-on.
Yeah,
So my suggestion would be coming up with a project and then building the project.
So popular.
When I was first learning, after I went through the whole book,
it's not
I looked at apps on my phone and I just recreated those apps on my phone. For example, I looked at Instagram, I looked at the assets they use, the design pattern, the UI, and then I recreated Instagram on my own as a side project. And I just did that with several other apps until I learned the skill myself. Then I started applying for jobs. This process took me 6 months.
And how you gain sponsorship to promote yourself in racing or whatever you want to do.
So we
that was
wrapped the
challenge.
Tesla with public.com and then we raced it against another car.
Okay.
So don't worry, we're not coming for you yet.
Okay, so you say, like, there's one track, Centerpod. But everyone who's got a car has accelerated it hard. And they've, and if you're sort of into cars, you've probably tried to race someone at the lights. Obviously, you're not supposed to, but to get ahead, put your foot down. How does it go?
But that is a start gantry, isn't it? The lights.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And there's also the thing as well. It's like top trumps, isn't it? It's like everyone who's into cars. How much power have I got? How fast is it? Is it faster than my mate's car, or is it faster than the car that my mate says is faster than mine? You know, it's all that kind of thing. So it's quite a simple concept. And what you also get is side-by-side racing, which...
I also need to warn you that there is a bit of a learning curve. When I first started learning how to code, I gave up for like maybe 2 or 3 months until I went back and continued to learn. So my suggestion is just power through it. If you need to take a little break, take a break, week, 2 weeks, because there is a bit of a learning curve and you don't want to get burnt out.
Unless it's motorsport, you can't really do. You know, you can time cars around a track, but they're not side-by-side racing. And the way we do it, it's sort of like, it seems like I'm racing like with my co-host or other co-hosts, like it's me against him. But actually, what we really try to do is make the cars perform the best that they can, so that you're actually getting a fair representation of what these cars do. So it's not actually about us as drivers, which motorsport more is. It's once again back to that thing about blending proper car journalism with entertainment to show you these are how, if you get the perfect launches, these how these cars perform.
Well, going back to obviously with Red Bull and David Coulthard for that video, how do you get so many cars, firstly to review, but also these top cars and these top guys to come and do these videos with you?
Okay, so obviously we've got the reach. So we've got the reach. Car manufacturers want to, they part of their marketing strategy is to work with journalists to review their products. And because we have a huge reach, they want us to review their product. And that's how we get access to the manufacturer's cars.
You have to be careful about what you say about the cars, because then maybe in the future the manufacturer might not give you the cars that you want.
I think this is a problem that if you're small and you're starting out, you have. Now, because I worked on a major national magazine, I had the relationships with the PRs, so they would lend me the cars. And because I worked on a magazine which had, back in the day when I first started on it, it had like 100,000 issues a week. And so you had the audience, so you could be, you didn't have to kowtow to the PRs. You said what you thought about the car, and that's why you had the readers, because you were honest. And I was able to just transfer that straight across to the YouTube channel, because the PRs knew that I said what I thought. They knew it, and so it's just that's what Matt does.
And you're probably fair with what you say versus a hater.
Yeah, so one of the things is as well, like, nothing's perfect, right? So we have this thing in our videos where we have 5 bad things about this car and 5 cool things. And at first they're like, I don't like the bad things. I'm like, the things is like the bad things are true, and they also add credibility to the good things. And if I give an overall positive review to your car, then people will believe it, because I've pointed out some negatives. It doesn't sound like I'm just trying to sell you this car, which we had to be very careful with CarWow compared to when I was on Auto Express, because CarWow makes money by people using the site and buying this and selling their car through us. So we need to be completely impartial. Otherwise, people would be looking to go, well, you're just trying to sell this car. I'd seem more like a salesman than if I was working for a traditional magazine.
Just curious, what do you do right
What I
now?
like about your 5 bad things is that you'll say, boot space is terrible. It's only 300 litres, for example. But if you compare that with such and such, actually it's bigger. So you almost sort of sandwich the bad news with some good.
yeah. I mean, and that's basically like what I was saying. It's like you're just trying to explain it as it is, and the manufacturers find it hard. They can't really criticize if it's a fact, and the engineers, and they know the weaknesses of their product, and you can, their job is to try and spin that out, but it's very hard for them to argue unless you're making completely inaccurate claims, or you're being unfair, or you're just factually incorrect.
I quite like that comparison, the way you do it like that with another car, because, when you talk about figures, sometimes it's quite hard to compare figures with figures, because you can't really visualize it. But you know how big the boot is in your Mini or whatever you've got. So it's a good comparison. I think it brings it to life. The other obsession you seem to have is storage of Class A's. I see that come up in a few of your videos. Oh, there's a space for your cash.
That does happen sometimes. So once again, that comes back to like chatting with your mate. Like you'd have a bit of a laugh.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that is. Maybe that's growing up in Walsall again. I don't know.
It made me chuckle though. And
Yeah, I'm sorry if you didn't catch that. Any chance? What do you do right now? I'm just curious.
Yeah, it works very, very well.
So and that's once again, it doesn't seem like it's an influencer's review of a car because no marketing department would ever sign that off. There's actually a really funny little anecdote from Toyota PR, right? So I did a review of the GR Yaris before I bought it, and I started the video, I mean, this will sound weird, by actually having a wee. So I'm there having a wee in the bushes, and I come. And
What, and they're videoing you having a wee?
Yeah. Honestly,
Is that good for watch time?
it seemed to work.
Did it?
It's the most watched video of that car in the world.
It'll be finished
Wow.
in a minute.
Yeah. So I know what you mean, people dropping out.
But maybe they're like, I've never seen this before. I'm going to carry on watching.
But there was this thing, right? The Toyota PR, because obviously it's run out of Toyota's Japanese, and they have slightly different culture to us. And like they're like, we like Watson Son's video, but why does he have to start it by urinating? This is very disrespectful. And then like Toyota UK PR have to explain to them, well, he's sort of like what he does. It's how he gets some of the views, and look at the positive things he said about the video. And I think, why did I do that? It's just ridiculous. And some of the things I do, I know are ridiculous, and they make me cringe in retrospect. But there's also an element with YouTube. It's not just about watch time. People want to expect the unexpected. So, I'm going to review a car. I'm going to do this.
He has to subvert
I'm
your
gonna show the big
expectations.
face, blah, blah, blah. But I might say something or do something that's a little bit like, oh, no. Or, did he say that?
It kind of brings your attention back to the video as well if you're tuning out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I feel you on that one, man.
It's just to
My
make
girlfriend's brother actually is a mechanic for like the Caterpillars and that kind of stuff. It's a lot of work.
car review after car
So yeah,
review.
I would recommend
Plated.
software engineering. As you can see, I am working right now, and as you can see, I'm pretty relaxed. I have a meeting coming up at 9:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, but other than that, I think I'm pretty free most of the day, and I'm going to wrap up what I'm working on today, like maybe in the next hour, and then after that, I'm free for the rest of the day.
And he was the same colour as the car. Anyway, the MD of that company went crazy.
Got 2 small meetings today.
We're not going to work with you. We're not going to work with the business.
But overall, the culture is pretty chill. For the most part, the people, the companies are structured kind of weird when you're in a software industry, in the software engineering industry. You have managers and project owners, but you got to keep in mind that those people are not coders. So for the most part, they're not that technically savvy. So they mostly leave you alone, let you do whatever you're doing because they kind of don't understand what you're doing, which makes you have a very high level of autonomy.
But we didn't back off. We go, this is what we do. And I was actually, I like this car. I was positive about it. But it's that, once again, that element of what's he going to do at the beginning of the video to hook people in. And that other element that, well, if he says that about it, this is not paid, because he's quite positive about this car, but there's no way that, he's genuine.
So what's the best and the worst cars that you've ever reviewed?
Oh, this is
The best and the worst.
worst is harder because you sort of like get to manufacturers benchmark against each other, and
Is it a gee whiz?
if you're talking like stuff like that, I mean things like that, yeah, they're rubbish. So, but I don't class that as a car.
Well,
I'm
that's fair enough.
I don't really class that as a car. What was it?
You can pick it up and put it in your pocket almost, can't you?
Yeah, there was. I can't remember. It was a small Mitsubishi. It was pretty bad. Like I can't remember that. It was so bad. I've like wiped it from my memory. It was like their version of the Ford Fiesta. That was awful. I didn't much like a Hyundai Kona, whereas the other latest Hyundai I think are brilliant.
Yeah, haven't they turned a corner, haven't they?
Kia and Hyundai. I mean, oh my god, they're building as good, in some cases better cars than Volkswagen. Volkswagen's gone down a bit. Kia and Hyundai are just like...
And Hyundai just won the British Touring Car Championship this year as well, so I think it all looks good.
Yeah, I mean, and then they've got this Halo brand Genesis, which it might struggle a bit just because of like badge snobbery. But the cars are actually pretty decent. I remember when I was like in the early days of being a car journalist, like going on a Kia launch, and we'd like review the little Picanto or their first Sorrento that they did, and they're pretty agricultural cars, very basic, and they're like going, well, we're planning to be up there with like Volkswagen. So you're like, yeah, right, mate. Yeah, but actually 10 years later, here they are.
Yeah. So what's the best car?
The best all-round car, I think,
Yeah.
it's not really a family car. I should pick a family car. Best all-round car is a Porsche 911.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
If I wasn't doing this job, I'd have a Porsche 911. I'd probably need another car as well.
But it's still a good everyday car, isn't it, Porsches? They're very reliable, aren't they?
They're so well made. They're comfortable enough. They're fun.
Yeah.
They don't, they've got back seats, which...
Just changing assets right now.
If you want to torture someone. But
Well, it depends what version you got, because you could have scaffolding in the back, couldn't you?
If you go for a GT car, you could have a roll cage. But I'm just talking normal entry level. 911 is such a good all round car, and I think if I didn't do this job, that is the car that I would have.
So if Top Gear asked you to be a presenter,
Yes.
what would your answer be to
Yeah,
them?
of course.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I thought maybe it'd be too small fry for what you're doing now.
No, it's still the thing, isn't it? Right, but it's not.
It's not what it was though, but maybe you could bring it back to that stage.
Well, is it what it was? See,
No, it definitely
actually,
isn't.
I actually enjoy it now. I mean, I worked on the last series of Top Gear when Clarkson and Hammond and May were on, and no disrespect to them because they've done a fantastic job, but I thought it lost its way. Okay, it went in the wilderness for a while, but I think it's found its way again. Personally,
Do you know what? I don't watch it. I don't watch any telly.
Did you used to watch it back in the day?
I used to watch it like in the early Clarkson Hammond days. And then, but towards the end of that, I stopped watching it just because I was then starting to do, more car review myself, and I was a bit more focused on that. But I did learn a lot from them, and like Clarkson was like my hero. That's sort of the reason why I got into this, like Jeremy Clarkson, and the way he did that thing of, I'm going to tell you about a car, but I'm going to make it fun. And he was the first one to do that, like in old Top Gear.
I think towards the end it became too much about them rather than the cars. And
think it's
that's why I lost it a bit.
I think it's like with everything, right? It ran for so long. You think about how many seasons that ran for. It's very hard. Yeah. And even with stuff on YouTube, you see it, the algorithm wants to cycle people, or people, you must have, when you're watching things on TikTok or YouTube, there's certain channels that you're watching and you're watching them all the time. And then you just, think, I used to watch that and I haven't watched it so much. And I think that's what happened with them, they... you start to run out of ideas, or you're having to keep on escalating, aren't you? Because you've got to do something slightly better than last time.
yeah.
And it's the same with James Bond movies in a way. It's got to get more and more extreme, and and I think that's what happened to them. So this change seems to, in terms of viewer figures, has done the job.
Yeah, it's been very good. I think with Jeremy, obviously he's a very intelligent guy and he understands his cars. I think he understands a hell of a lot more than what people give him credit for. But I think he dumbs himself down now a little bit too far, and they all joke him being the monkey and all the rest of it.
Yeah, dude. That sounds like a lot of work, to be honest. Like, I had this job. If you become a software engineer, especially if you work remote, like how I work remote, it's one of the best jobs you can have. You'll have tons of free time. My boss is always just telling me, like, you should go to, like, Europe or to, like, the Philippines, Thailand, and just work from there. And he's like, why are you working from home? Like, you should just work, like, overseas, enjoy your life, go party. It's just a lot of freedom. It's a lot of freedom.
Really bad stuff, just cut it out.
But it also depends on the company.
Because you want, video of a certain length.
I think they're masters at making it like you don't think they're on a script.
Yeah.
But they're actually just interacting.
I think it got more and more like that. Yeah. And there's certain elements where you see where it's less scripted and it's like, wow, that's gold. But I've done a few TV shows and the budgets that are involved, and the time frame that you've got to shoot stuff. You've got to nail it. You've got to have your story working. Whereas YouTube, you don't have that. There's more freedom. And they've got to think about like the quality of their shots and their angles and stuff. Whereas I've noticed this on YouTube. I've seen car channels that have tried to do like cinematic things and big Top Gear stuff. People watch vertical on their phones. I watch vertical. I don't even turn it that way. And
so you're not getting the full benefit.
So you're not getting the full benefit. I mean, that's just my opinion. I'm sure that there are other channels that really have like built their, like for instance, Casey Neistat was someone who like built it on like this cinematic experience. But generally, it's more about the content.
Yeah, but I think even with Casey, it wasn't the drone shots and all the pretty
more the
things that he
personal
did.
stuff.
It was, yeah, and that's what people thought they liked, but they couldn't put their finger on what actually was the special thing about his content. So I think that's what you've got as well.
We both love Casey, don't we?
Yeah.
Very much so. So where's the craziest place that you've driven a car?
So I've reviewed a car in the Atacama Desert in Chile. I've been driving through Namibia. I think I've driven a car underground in a tunnel.
That's got to be pretty cool because that's got to be a speed rush, isn't it, going through those tunnels?
Yeah, but it was like a deep underground. It was Fort Express actually, like a deep underground tunnel. I can't remember, honestly, my memory's so bad. I basically just like churned through all these like different cars and locations, and it's just I remember that. I flew out to the Falkland Islands to review a Citroen Berlingo, which was weird.
Why to there?
So obviously the MOD used
Because
to
you're
use
British
for everything,
and you're trying to rub in that you stole this territory
for like just transporting stuff around the Mount Pleasant Air Base in the Falkland Islands, which is a big waste of money because they're quite expensive to run. So one of the procurement officers decided, why don't we save some money and just buy some Citroen Berlingos to whiz around the base? Citroen like, oh, this is good. We're working with the MOD. Can we get some publicity on this? And just sent me out to go and cover it. And it was quite an eye-opener spending some time on the Falkland Islands with the British Army. Yeah. Oh dear, I've never had a hangover like it. It was completely crazy.
Well, there's not a lot else to do down there,
There's
is
not
there?
a lot else to do.
Watch the penguins and drink.
Yeah, and I saw penguins. One of the most amazing things actually was when we were flying back. So we're flying back and we're in this old Boeing 747. And all of a sudden, this plane goes like this. I'm not half going to sleep. And the plane goes like this. Oh my God, what's happening?
Well, you hadn't hit a penguin, I know that.
No, yeah. Sucked a penguin into the
That'd be
engine.
some bird strike, that, wouldn't it?
And everyone was like, over Mars, and like the plane was tilted a bit like that because everyone was over the right hand side of the plane, like looking out the windows. And on the tip of the wing, almost touching it, was a tornado upside down like that.
Oh, wow.
And then he went to the other side, then the other side was messing around, and then gave it that and buggered off.
Well, that's fantastic, isn't it?
And I got some great photos on my phone, but it was back in, I don't know, like mid-noughties when I had 1.5 megapixels or something. But it's an amazing photo.
I noticed you drove recently in a snow dome.
Oh, yeah.
That was very interesting. So tell us a bit about that.
And how did you get permission to do something like that?
Money. Yeah, so basically, I wanted to show the difference between winter tires and summer tires this time of year.
A lot of people don't know this, do they? Because I've had an experience of winter tyre usage because we used to have to go to Nuremberg every year with my business. And if you have an accident out there in the winter and you haven't got winter tyres on, it's your fault.
But having experienced winter tyres and summer tyres in snow or bad weather, you now know that it is your fault, isn't it?
It is,
because
yeah.
the difference is crazy.
Yeah.
And that's what this video was designed to show, but we wanted to make it a bit more fun. So we were drag racing Audi R8. I think we had a rear-wheel drive one versus a four-wheel drive one, trying to drag race them at the ski slope in Tamworth. And then, so we drag race them with summer tires on. Then we put winter tires on the rear-wheel drive car. And
I think that it is better to be self-taught. So where I work right now, I have, at the moment, I have one person who's on my team who has a master's degree in software engineering. And that person, I see them, they know what they're doing, but they seem to struggle with coming up with solutions. And I've also seen this with past employees, which unfortunately we had to let those employees go because of the same situation. Most of the time when the person has gone to college for software engineering, in my opinion, what I've witnessed, observed, and it might just be anecdotal at the moment, is that those people tend to struggle with coming up with solutions themselves. And I think it has to do with the learning process that they followed in college. For example, they will get stuck on a bug and they will start searching for the answer on Google, check Stack Overflow, and if they don't find the answer, they will struggle to come up with a solution on their own. Whereas when you're self-taught, I usually just kind of hack it, you know? I kind of hack it. I almost never look up solutions at all. Every single solution I've come up with, it's just out of my mind. me thinking through it and just coming up with a good quick hack.
But I think it was about 6 degrees. Winter tires perform much
The
better.
one thing I do like about people who went to college or uni for this is that they usually are really good at explaining what they're working on. They're good at making diagrams. They're good at the documentation portion of it. What they're not good at is actually solving the problems or building out the acceptance criteria for projects.
They move around, so you get this sensation of the car moving around beneath you, which if you like race
So they're good at the documentation and they're good at explaining and also giving talks, but they're really bad at actually coming up with solutions and actually solving problems. And I think it's just because they're dependent on receiving solutions to the problems from other people or other sources.
So, do you think you live so fast? That
Long
you can
answer.
take it in? And I think that's a common issue for a lot of YouTubers.
Yeah, I mean, it's constantly on.
I also think it's kind of a waste of money because I went to school for graphic design.
You're thinking about the video only, and
I thought about going to school for software engineering. I went through the whole process of filling out the paperwork and all that stuff. It was $90,000 for the degree.
That's my job.
And I just think that's a waste of money because it's something you can teach yourself. And when you get a job, nobody asks you if you have a degree or not. They only care about actual results.
Thinking, how long am I going to get with the car? I've got to assess it correctly. Have I got these figures correct? What other opportunities can I film with it to make it even more exciting? How am I going to do Instagram, TikTok, Facebook as well? Rather than just thinking, oh, this is a nice car. Oh, this is a lovely location. Oh, the hotel's very nice. We get sent to these nice hotels, but you have no time to actually enjoy them. I'm sure everyone's like going, yeah, dry your eyes, Matt. It's still very good. I used to be a chartered accountant, and
that's a conversation stopper, isn't it?
It is. And I tell you
from
what,
accountant to car reviewer,
exactly.
It's crazy.
I'm not going back to that. It's not, it's not that bad.
So how did you secure the best job in the world?
So I knew accountancy wasn't for me. When I almost got fired for playing hide and seek on a consolidation audit because I was so bored. And
Really?
playing hide and seek, and the FD of the company came back to because he'd left something in his office, and he opened the door, and I came out of one of his cupboards. And I said, I got away with it because he was quite a light-eyed bloke, and I said, we leave no stone unturned, and he found it funny. But he said, I could have got you fired for that. And I just thought, I've got to stop this because this is,
Yeah, just a bit too playful for an
Too
accountant.
playful.
Yeah.
And then I one of my mates that I was working with, his wife was an editor of a local newspaper, and she was the only person I'd ever spoken to who talked about her job with any passion. Like my parents were teachers, and like other people we knew like worked in offices and in business, but no one really, they went to work. You go to work, Matt. You go earn some.
I'm gonna be honest. I feel like I'm finally living my life.
She was the only person that spoke about their job with any.
Before having this job, I felt like I was just another drone, but making good money and having time to make content or do whatever other hobbies I have.
Newspaper for about a quarter of the money, and my dad was like, because I was working for one of the big five. I worked for PwC.
So this is not IT. Whenever I speak to these IT guys, they're always talking about they have like this cert, that cert. There's like a bunch of stuff that they have, like that they bring. Software engineering really isn't like that. So what you need to do is pick a tech stack. Like for example, I'm iOS, so I do Swift. If you're like a web developer who makes websites, you do like JavaScript, HTML, CSS. If you're machine learning, you do like Python. You pick a tech stack, learn the tech stack, learn data structures and algorithms. When you get a chance, Google data structures and algorithms for your tech stack, learn those, and then that's about it. You don't need any certs for software engineering. As long as you know data structures and algorithms, when you do your interviews, they're going to ask you a series of questions. They'll probably give you an algorithm to solve or to write out. And if you can master that, like if you can write the algorithm, then you're probably going to get the job.
So how much control do you have over the final product?
Not once did they ask me for any type of certifications or anything like that. This is a results-based job.
This is what it look like. I don't do that anymore. We've got a good
It's
team
based
that does that.
100% on what you can perform, on your performance. So the interviews are not like a traditional interview. It is an interview where you sit down, they bring out a whiteboard or they bring out a program that's kind of like a whiteboard. They ask you a question and you solve the question with an algorithm.
It's a little bit.
And if you're able to solve the question with the algorithm, they might ask you to build a project for them. If you build a project, you'll come back, you'll explain the project to them, what you did. They'll look over the code, and if they think that you did a really good job with the project and you're good at the algorithm data structures, then you're probably going to get the job. Not once did they ask me for a degree or certifications. I think that that's more of an IT type thing. And these IT jobs, they have a lot more certifications and that sort of stuff, but not with software engineering.
The best way, because if you're going to be doing long miles, lots and lots of diesel's still the way to go. Now people don't want dieselgate and stuff like that, but actually, depending on the application, that's the right thing. The diesel car is the right thing. Also for general fun, and like what I like, hooning a car about on a track. Electric car can't touch an internal engine car. Revving it out, they're generally lighter. The balance of the car as well, and the way you can play with the balance rather than skateboard design of electric car, which has got weight, low down, and it's quite heavy. So they're not so good for that. But for a lot of people, like nipping to the shops, doing like a average commute, which is most people do 30 miles a day. Electric cars are brilliant. You don't have to go to the petrol station. If you've got a place you can charge it, if you haven't, but if you have, plug it at home like your phone. I'm one of the things, I've got quite a few cars and I've got mechanics, and I hate starting my car up for a short journey because it heat cycle the engine. Whereas an electric car, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's fine.
So can a car lover actually like an electric car?
Yeah.
Well, let me rephrase that. Can a petrol head truly love electric cars?
So a petrol head isn't necessarily in cars just because of petrol. They like cars, and a lot of the elements of electric cars they can enjoy. They can still enjoy. What they'll miss out on, they'll also miss out on the character of the engine. Because one of the things that I noticed with electric cars is basically they all feel the same pretty much if you have the same power to weight ratio. Whereas a big engine, to a Mercedes engine, feels different to a Porsche engine. And that's the thing that's going to be interesting, how these manufacturers differentiate their product, when a big part of what made a car emotional was the character of its system, one compared to another. Like some people, I like low down torque, whereas I like to rev it up. Now, it might be that they program the car in such a way that it delivers low down torque, or it falls a bit, it releases more and more power. I mean, Ferrari already do with their V8, they limit the torque in the first few gears so it feels more revvy than it otherwise would be.
So building on that, what's your opinion of the best electric car on the market at the moment?
And we're talking sort of 30k band, 60k band, 100k band.
Okay, so what I think is the best electric car on the market right now is a new MG4.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Tesla Model 3.
That's interesting. It looks good.
Looks good.
Yeah.
Rear wheel drive, actually fun. Actually fun, around roundabouts and stuff like that, with that torque out of a roundabout. It's good fun to drive. It's well made. It's got decent tech. I mean, they've come along and way better than a Volkswagen. There's no way I'd have an ID3 over the MG, which is.
How about the charging stations? Because obviously Tesla has all the infrastructure.
Yeah. How often do you use charger?
Quite a lot, actually. So when I was coming here, like we charged up with the supercharger. It's like when I'm doing longer journeys, because my girlfriend lives in Bath, so it takes me a while to get there. So yeah, probably every weekend.
Okay, so I've had a Tesla, and yeah, you do doing long journeys. But for what I do, I could run an electric car, but I don't, because you got to stop still. Yeah. And I can fill it with diesel or petrol a fraction of the time. That you do with Tesla. Now, it might suit your lifestyle that I'm doing some emails and stuff like that.
Exactly. This is what me and Kyle were having this discussion, actually. And he's like, oh, you just pretend to like it. I was like, no, I actually quite like just stopping after a couple of hours, 3 hours driving, and just go and get a drink and something to eat. And then my car's charged.
I think once you've got a range of 300 plus miles,
it's okay.
You are going to stop at some point on a 300-mile trip, aren't you? And you're going to have a cup of coffee or do something, so you've got time to charge. That's why we think Tesla is.
I often
pretty
charge longer than I need to.
Yeah.
I want to just chill for a bit. So I don't mind it, but I'm not making that up.
There is something interesting about electric cars that there is a weird element of fun in the charging stuff and being like really efficient with that, because sometimes you can do more stops and it's quicker because obviously the less charge you've got in your battery, and as long as you like heated it up beforehand, that you can actually be quite efficient with your charging. So you get that kind of science, that kind of bit of fun, which is something you never have really with these, where you're like, oh, I'll just fill it up, like I'll fill it up a quarter of the way, and then I'll stop again. You're never going to do
Well,
that.
the only fun you have with a diesel filling it up or a petrol is, can I stop it dead on the amount?
That's it. Yeah.
That's getting harder and
I was
harder.
going to say now, it used to be quite easy. Not now. You have to have the reactions of a striking cobra, don't you?
I know you like charging more often, don't you? I
Well, when you
prefer-
get to 20% and it's 20 to like 60%, that's really fast.
yeah.
And
it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Whereas I like to sort of drag out the economy as much as I can when I'm driving it, and then go for the long charge.
Yeah,
So
go for the long charge. Yeah. So there is this, but once again, that does take a little bit of brain power. Where sometimes you jump in your car, I've got to be there. You're actually about your charging, what you're going to do. So it is hot. Let's not mess around. It's more difficult.
It is more difficult.
It
Yeah.
is. But then there are the rewards that just generally driving an electric car, especially around town, is nicer.
and you always leave a full tank, and I think that's what people forget. If you are charging at home, you've always got a full tank of juice in your car. So it's not like where you normally go and go, oh, I've got to stop for fuel, fill it up, and then go home. You are always leaving a full tank. So if that range is 200 miles, how many people do 200 miles on a daily basis?
Don't. And you're absolutely right, because how many times you're supposed to go to an appointment? Oh God, right, okay, I need to fill up. I'm going to be a little bit late. I'm not going to.
It doesn't really.
Yeah.
Do you want to ask the big question that split car lovers?
There is one question that has split car enthusiasts for years. It's the holy grail of car questions. And I really hope today you can nail this one for us, because it's really important to all car lovers out there. Okay. Ferrari or Lambo?
Porsche.
Porsche.
That one went viral.
Porsche.
No, definitely Porsche every single time.
So what are the reasons behind that versus a Ferrari or Lambo?
Because easier to live with, gives the same kind of performance, going to be more reliable, less expensive to fix when it goes wrong. Just honestly, I just think Porsche is such a great brand. The products that they make are so good, and I'm not paid by them. I just think they're really good all-round cars, and they give pretty much all the performance and fun of a Ferrari, for less money, and they're not quite so ostentatious, and they're more usable.
And you do a better German accent than an Italian
I
one.
can't do anything, and I can't really do a German accent. It's like something like hello, hello, isn't it?
know. So Google tells me you're worth a net worth of about £1 million. I guess that's a little light. What's your words on that?
Blimey.
Damn, they're out here digging it up. Hey, what's up, Devin XO? How are you doing? Thank you for joining the stream. We're having a bit of a laid-back stream today. I am working and trying to do some reaction content while working.
Probably around.
It's a very British thing to talk about it, isn't it?
Yeah.
How'd you find my channel?
It's very bad for you to ask that question and never divulge it yourself. I think you should come clean and go, this is it for me.
I think
Well,
it's,
we divulged earnings, but not necessarily net worth, and that's because my mum doesn't like that talking about that. Whereas I can talk.
Oh, look at those guns, boys. Look at those guns.
Earnings wise from all of the businesses.
Everything,
My earnings average probably about 50K.
Devin, how'd you find my channel?
good. The boy's done good.
How about you then?
Oh, damn, okay.
I'm going to take this.
Are you into cars at all?
Let me divulge it.
We always think it's not rude to ask.
Because one thing I forgot to mention is I am a car YouTuber.
Good.
That's fine.
Are there any other
Venturing into
businesses
streaming.
outside of YouTube?
I have only been streaming for 4 days. So far, it's been pretty good, though.
Your life is pretty busy already.
Yeah, so social media just like takes up a lot of the time. Obviously, I do a few bits of sponsor posts on my personal like Instagram, TikTok, and stuff like that. So, but doing 5 or 6 videos a week takes a lot of my I mean, you were like saying that you have different businesses. I mean, that's a good way to do it. But then you've got so many plates spinning, haven't you? It's quite.
I just thought to myself, I have a lot of free time. I have a job where I
It's more important to focus.
can kind of goof around. So why not take advantage of that and also stream while working?
It depends on who you are. Some people are really good, like for instance Yanni, who's in the drag races. I mean, he's got fingers in so many pies, whereas I'm more focused. And obviously, there's like this, the investment in car wow business itself.
I think we reached out to him actually, but he has contracts with the BBC, so it makes it hard for him to come on shows like this. But if he's watching, we would love to have him on.
So do you dabble in investing at all? And if to build generational wealth, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so I do, but I'm very, very basic about it.
There's nothing wrong with basic, as long as you're in there.
So my theory is I haven't got the time, I haven't got the knowledge. I'm not Warren Buffett. I'm just an index tracker kind of guy in different markets, just to diversify, So I'll do S&P 500, which is tanking. I've done obviously the FTSE for a long time now, and that's since I think it's about where it was before Lehman Brothers crashed.
It's a long-term game, and
but it hasn't really moved. I mean, it's moved like that, but it's been pretty flat. I do so in Japan, and that was picking up, but then again, it's like flattening. Yeah, so I don't know enough about it, but what I do know is that generally, if someone's winning in the market, someone's going to be losing in the market, surely. And so if you factor in the cost of trades or a managed fund, that's going to eat into any kind of growth. And so you're gambling that you're going to be on the winning side.
Yeah.
On average, you're going to follow the market. Then if you put in the high commission cost for managed funds, that's going to take you below that line. So I just went for the cheapest. Once again, it's the Warsaw thing. Just go for the cheapest and go with the index trackers.
Did you ever dabble any crypto at all in the bull run?
I was tempted. I was also tempted with Tesla shares because I thought I knew a bit about that. But I'm also quite realistic that when you see these gains, I mean, I knew that like the S&P was going crazy. It's got to come down because it's all built on the back of the tech firms, and there's like this big tech bubble going crazy, especially during COVID. Knowing that Tesla's got to be overvalued. How can Tesla be worth more than Toyota? It can't. It can't. It's not worth more than Toyota.
Yeah. Wasn't it like every car company combined? That was what it was worth. It's just crazy.
It's just not. It's not.
But Tesla isn't priced purely as a car company. It's priced as a technology car company that also makes cars. So obviously they're selling that technology as well. So it's a little bit different to most car companies.
Okay, but still.
Yeah, still overvalued.
I think it proved that.
But isn't SpaceX is separate? It's not owned by Tesla. So when you have shares in Tesla, you have shares in Tesla, the car.
Hey, Caesar, thank you for joining. How are you? If you're just joining the stream, guys, I am working intermittently while streaming, so it's going to be a pretty relaxed stream. Software engineer here, making high six figures. Thought it was a good idea to take advantage of my free time and also stream as much as possible, grow these channels that I currently have. So that's what I've been doing. We are reacting right now to Matt Watson Car Wow on Strike It Big, a finance podcast.
The price is Elon and hype. Because
if you guys are not familiar with my content, I am a YouTuber who specializes in car content, primarily vlogging. I am the owner of a McLaren 570S and previous owner of a Porsche 718 Spider. And I am working on my next move, hopefully jumping into a Lamborghini at some point. Right now, the McLaren is in the workshop, getting some work done.
Obviously, you've got GM and various others that have all come and gone, or been rescued or whatever.
But just so you guys see, I'm not bullshitting.
It's very difficult for a car company.
McLaren owner here.
Yeah, but it's still young though, isn't it?
It is.
Ford. That's been around a long time.
I do like my Fords.
Yeah. We'll see where we are with Tesla. The problem with
I'm trying, man. I'm trying.
What Elon did.
I just need to get my YouTube channel monetized, and I realized that doing one video
mainstream manufacturers.
Doing one video a week is not going to cut it.
And I think that's what he wants.
So started researching live streaming, and I think so far what live streaming really is helping my channel grow.
Disappeared.
Has it?
Yeah. Am I buying the blue tick?
Hey, thank you for the follow, man. I appreciate it. This is my 4th day streaming, by the way.
Having a little tick because I pay for Netflix.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna mute my mic for a little bit. I got a phone call I need to take really quick. It's a business phone call, so it has to be muted because I have an NDA with the company I work with, and I don't want to get sued or fired. I will be back in like 10-15 minutes, but I will leave the stream playing so we can watch the video in the meantime.
Where he's going to be.
Yeah, he was pumping Dogecoin, all those coins, wasn't he? And if you think one tweet can do that and make so many people rich and lose their money as well.
I will be back in just a few minutes, guys. I just need to mute this while I take this phone call because of the NDA that I currently am under.
Which, if other people might have done, could have got them in a lot of trouble. It's a bit Teflon-y at the moment. But yeah, you can't, he is inspirational, visionary, but also... Yeah,
he's like the biggest financial influencer in the world, isn't he? He could do anything with a tweet.
But I don't know whether it might all come crashing down.
Well, I think he's the Edison of our timeline anyway, that's for sure.
What do you think? Do you think that he might come unstuck at some point? Or is that just the
I
British?
think everyone comes unstuck to a certain degree at some point, but I think he will continue. He's very diversified. I think he's been through his stickiest times. I mean, SpaceX was a launch away from dying. I think Tesla was probably a bit of money away from dying, which he's pumped in, hasn't he? Which is amazing. So I think he's had his sticky times, and I think it will be growth. Whether it will be growth in stock price, I don't know, but certainly I think he's on the highway to doing very, very well.
What do you think about things like Hyperloop and stuff like that? Because he does quite a lot of things, and like we're talking about, like the solar roofs, which. Like he did a demonstration with these solar roofs, and they weren't. He had to go and say, actually, what we showed there were just like they weren't real. So he's done quite a lot of these projects that we're going to be doing. Done quite a lot of projects that then just disappear, and there's quite a lot. One thing that I've noticed with car manufacturers is that, let's say Toyota says we're going to do this, this happens, whereas Elon does a lot of. Like there's clips of him going like 2017. In this time next year, Tesla's full self-driving.
Yeah, and the Roadster's going to come out, and the Roadster's
doesn't come out. Where are all these products? Which obviously that inflates the share price. Oh, look at this! This is amazing. Tesla Roadster, it's $100,000, and it'll beat any like Bugatti Chiron. The Cybertruck, oh man, that's amazing. Oh, the Tesla Model 3, it's going to drive itself, and then there's the whole thing that you'll be able to have a Tesla Model 3 taxi or whatever, and you'll be able to just basically it'll just make money for everybody.
Yeah, the robo-taxi.
Yeah, and
it's not here yet.
I think you'll find that most car manufacturers go. It's just the fact, because Tesla hasn't been here as long. When, let's say, for example, Toyota bring out a concept car, as a journalist, and I know as a layperson, I look at it and go, whoa, look at that. But that actually won't work because of X, Y, Z. And it is a concept car.
But they don't say it's coming. They don't go, this is coming next. They don't say it's coming next year. They don't.
Maybe he needs to rely on that marketing to boost the share price. I think you've got it now on the head. Maybe it's like the boy that cried wolf. How many times will people believe it?
I know. Although, once again, I am a big admirer of him, what he's done.
And he doesn't buy advertising, does he, for Teslas? I mean, when do you see an advert for Tesla? You don't. He is his own advertisement for his own brand.
And it's crazy. And what they did is amazing. And the cars, like Model 3, I still think it's one of the very best electric cars.
Yeah,
that's handy, isn't it?
The Koreans
two of them.
Yeah, the Koreans have come in and done a great job. I'm not. It's very close between those now. But yeah, with the charging infrastructure that you said is handy. It really is.
100%.
The build quality, though, that's the only thing.
Yeah,
but it's not terrible. But it's
much better than it was in the early days. Yeah. I think I jumped on at the right time.
I think also the problem with build quality, because people always come back to that, is because they look at it as a £60,000 vehicle and then compare it with a £60,000 petrol BMW.
Yeah.
And that's not a fair comparison, because obviously 20 to 30 grand of that amount you spent is in the battery package within that car. Whereas when you're buying a BMW or a Mercedes, it's not. it's just not there. So the build quality, the extra 20 grand you're paying is for that extra quality. So I think sometimes it's not a right comparison.
So what you do, like if you compare Tesla Model 3 to the BMW i4, which will be their version, the BMW is quite a lot more expensive. And the amount of kit that you get as standard on the Tesla, I mean, there's basically no options apart from like upgrading your sat nav. So it's like satellite and...
Yeah, and you can upgrade the speed as well, but that's all downloadable.
Yeah,
So
and you can turn it on and off as you want. But generally, the equipment that you get on the Tesla is very good, and the BMW are having to pay more and more and more for. But I think as the Germans get more into building the cars, the gap's gonna narrow. One thing that I spoke to an engineer of one of the German car companies, and I was like, "Why are your cars so much heavier than Teslas? Similar battery pack. What's going on?" And basically, one of the benefits that Tesla had is that they started with a blank sheet of paper. So they could, it's a bit like evolution, we've got like a blind spot in our eye and stuff like that. There's things that if you were designing a human from scratch, you wouldn't do. You wouldn't have an appendix, for instance, and stuff like that. And it's a bit like that with the car companies that the traditional car companies want to use bits that are already in their organization, like control units. So they end up having more wiring, they have more control units, whereas Tesla goes, well, we don't need all those because we haven't already got deals with suppliers on them. What do we want? How do we want to do it? And as a result, it's one of the reasons why their cars were lighter. So the Tesla Model 3 is I think it's like 1,800 kilos, whereas the equivalent BMW would be like 2 tons or something.
When is enough? Enough.
Oh, it's never enough. Is it?
I don't know, is it?
No.
in terms of money or views, or because you don't seem motivated by money.
I am a bit, but I'm not the best businessman.
Right. Okay.
But you're always it's like we talked about earlier. Like 8-year-olds who've like got billions and then they still do this other project. You want to keep yourself busy. You want to be engaged. You want to do something that's interesting to you. And so at the moment, doing this is interesting to me still, even after like doing it since 2016, this car buy channel. It's it's still very interesting going off and driving this new car. And this is one of the benefits of the thing that I do is you have YouTubers that create content just purely from their own head, and it's quite hard for them to constantly come up with concepts. Whereas I basically the manufacturer comes up with a product and I go and try it out and tell people about it. And I'm interested in cars, so I guess as long as they're still making cars, I'm going to find that interesting. And
so you've got content forever.
Yeah.
It's a good position to be in. Anyway, guys, if you've enjoyed the podcast, make sure to smash that thumbs up button for the YouTube algorithm, and we will see you next Friday with a brand new podcast. So it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.
See you later.
Based on the ring knowledge, we'll talk more about haters today. I'm the guy who thinks who is faster than Hamilton.
I'm actually going to go in a slightly different direction with today's episode.
I was broke. I had nothing. I came here with the last 10 euros in my pocket.
Give us a rundown of what's been going on over the last 12 months.
It's been an amazing year. I started the year with 420 or 430,000 subscribers on YouTube. I'm now 1.1. Oh my God, I'm taking over a multi-million euro business. There's a lot that has led up to this. The last 6 weeks, I cannot even believe the stuff we've been through as a team.
What do you think of that?
I was having a lot more concerns about the situation that were overtaking the stuff that I was doing.
I can put a question back to you.
Yes, like literally when the situation got worse.
Storms quietly raging away, basically, in the background.
It's either now or never situation.
We're actually here yet again. Misha, welcome back to Road to Success. We did an episode in the summer together, which did brilliantly on the channel. And since then, we've had literally thousands of requests to basically finish the conversation, because it was long anyway, but it could have been twice as long, and go into detail on many other parts of your life, various stories. People really found the episode brilliant. So this is why I've chosen you as our Christmas special on Road to Success.
Thank you so much. I'm honored.
Now, before we get going, I would just like to say, normally the style of episodes I do on the podcast is to talk about how someone has got to where they have done today. If I've had them on for the first time, the story is all about how that person has achieved their success. If you want to see that episode with Misha, it's about 6 months ago on the channel, and you can go and take a look at that. And I'm actually going to go in a slightly different direction and let Misha go in a different direction with today's episode. So, a slight alteration to the first question I normally pose. Misha, in your own words, who are you and what the hell have you been up to in the last 12 months?
Who am I? According to the last podcast, I'm the guy who thinks who is faster than Hamilton.
Max Verstappen's the go.
Exactly. I should actually ask you, so the question one more time again. You asked 1 lap race, right?
Yeah.
And I said, based on the ring knowledge, and I explained that, no, he thinks he's faster than Hamilton. I think that everyone who's driven at least 1 or 2 laps of the Nürburgring is going to be faster than anyone driving for the first time. Anyway, getting sidetracked, we'll talk more about haters today.
He's already triggered by the comments in the last video. And all we're doing is giving him a platform to come on and basically...
Yeah, I gotta keep this muted because you guys can hear.
And I'm already annoying everyone that told me to shut up last time. But I reckon there's a chance here he's going to get out his phone and go through that comment section if we allow him.
No,
it's my job to stop that.
Exactly. If anything, I want to say this was one of the best things where people started saying oh my God, he thinks he's faster than this, because those people would otherwise never share our podcast because they think, whatever. And I'm like, look at this guy, what he's saying. Anyway, let's get back to the intro. Or do you want to redo that?
No, that's brilliant. We're all good. Well, one of the things that I actually want to talk about, and I think this is a great place to start because we have reference of doing that last podcast together.
Yes.
And in that time frame, you've actually doubled your following basically. So it's taken years to get to the point that you were at when we were last interviewing you. And now you've doubled it, which we hear a lot on YouTube. There's the snowball effect when people start, they're on a roll and people are showing it to their friends. I think word of mouth actually becomes a huge thing. And I made this little note to say that the last time we saw you, just to give some context, you were on 486K on Instagram. That's now doubled to 900,000 plus.
Close to.
Yeah. Or is it close to 900,000? Maybe by the time the episode goes on.
Who knows?
And YouTube, you were about 700K just over in August, now 1.1 million.
Yes.
Which means you've only doubled your channel compared to the fact that we've actually quadrupled Road to Success's following since you were last on. So you need to catch up with the game, really, mate. We have gone from 4,000 to 25,000 subs quite quickly. What do you think of that?
Not only that, last time we had the issue of being too hot in the van. You had no aircon. Now we're too cold and you have a heater. So you're up your game, man. That's amazing.
We're trying to regulate the temperature. And because we've upped our game, all we'd ask before you start listening to us waffle on is that you can hit the subscribe button on this channel, because it only helps me get more guests with amazing stories to tell, just like Misha, and you'd be doing us a massive favor. But should we crack on with it? Give us a rundown of what's been going on over the last 12 months.
It's been an amazing year, honestly. I would say I had, as you said, one of the successful years ever. Well, simply the most successful year when it comes to social media as a content creator. I started the year with 420 or 430,000 subscribers on YouTube. I'm now 1.1x something, maybe 1.2 by the time this podcast gets released. As mentioned, close to 900,000. And whereas in the past, I think it took me 2 years when I started doing YouTube to reach my first 100,000.
Hey guys, sorry about that. I had to grab that meeting. I could not have it broadcasted online because of NDA requirements.
What's the key to success on that front?
This video about Misha, I think I'm going to skip it for now. So sorry if you guys are getting invested. If anybody watching who wants me to stay on this video, because if not, I will be switching to the next video in the playlist.
As a content creator, it's like a very luxury first world problem to have. You look at the short, it has 30 million views, and you get only 1,000 euros of AdSense. Whereas because when you do it with a big video, you would get probably tenfold the amount, or even 30 times more. So you're that's little, but you get 50,000 subscribers based on one short alone. And you're like, okay, that is actually very interesting. So that has to do with that, especially.
It got scary. We had to move into a higher security building.
Let's go ahead and watch a Casey Neistat video.
That's when it got
This
dark.
guy is one of the biggest well-known bloggers. Let's see what his vlogging insight has to say.
In history. Throughout your story, there's this objectively delusional persistence towards a goal.
The word I've been using is patience, because patience is so unattractive. And I think you need to remove this idea of success being this romantic, beautiful thing. It's not. When I started my daily vlog, making a video a day, 800 days in a row, it took 8 years to go from 0 to a couple 100,000 subscribers, failing year in and year out. And I was $200,000 in debt. It's awful. You're a loser. But patience will smash into opportunity, and then it went to 10 million subscribers in like 18 months. So in life, you can get whatever you want, but are you willing to do that for 20 years? If you're not, don't bother, man.
You've sold the company, you've built the channels, you've made a huge name for yourself. At that point,
that's when it got hard, because the only goal that anyone should have in life is one of happiness and fulfillment. And like this idea that you have to win to be happy could not be further from the truth. I had by every definition achieved success, but I wasn't running the marathon because I wanted to get across the finish line. I was running it because I loved the running. And the fame was insane. Like we had to move to LA and I didn't know what to do until now.
is this a new Casey? What can we expect? Casey is a legend. He's a legend to so many people. He's one of the originals as it relates to creativity, content, video, and YouTube. And although most of us know Casey, what most of us don't know is the underdog story, the true, deep, uncovered motivations that drove him to become arguably one of the world's most famous, most acclaimed, most celebrated online creators ever. And it's a story that you'll relate to. It's a story of a completely normal dude that was down and out, that had a very big, indistinguishable passion. And the more interesting, maybe for me as someone that's watched Casey's journey from afar, is what he's doing now. For the first time ever, he talks about what his life is right now. Now that he's not uploading videos every day. Now that he's a little bit further out of the spotlight. And Casey gives us this blueprint for how we can take that thing that we enjoy doing, that thing we consider a passion or a hobby, and drag it up the mountain and make it an incredibly lucrative job. How do we turn our passion into a career? And how do we become number one at the thing we do when everything seems to be against us? That is the story of Casey Neistat, and that's the story you're going to enjoy today. Before this episode starts, the one favor I'll ask, if you enjoy what we do here and you enjoy the guests that we bring, please join the Diary of a CEO journey by hitting the subscribe button. And if you do, I'll make you a deal. I'll do everything in my power to make this show bigger and better for you. Do we have a deal? Enjoy this episode. Casey, what do I need to know about your earliest years to understand the man that sits before me today? I almost think of people's lives like a set of dominoes that have fallen. What are those first dominoes that fell to create the man that sits here today?
Oh man, how much time you got?
Plenty.
So my whole childhood was just completely unsupervised.
Let's see what Casey Neistat, if he's going to cook or not.
No.
For the most part, this guy cooks though.
There was no like dinner at 6. It was like, be home before dark or you're going to be in trouble. Trouble never being defined and like dark never being defined. And it was just kind of like a very loose, kind of fucked up, wandering childhood of exploration. You know, like I was telling this story recently, but there were railroad tracks behind our house. And one of the things we used to do for fun, we were little kids, is we'd collect pennies and change and we'd lay them on the railroad tracks and the train would go over them and flatten them. Very cool. But the train would vibrate the tracks as it approached and the coins would fall off of it. So the only way to address that is you'd put the coins.
Next meeting is at 11 a.m.
It was really close. So I don't know. I was in grammar school, which is 6th grade. Like, how old are you then? I was like 10 years old. It's a little kid. And like, train track, huge freight train coming and me putting nickels on the train tracks to try to get a flattened coin. That's kind of what my childhood was like.
As you look back, what is the power and the gift that unsupervision gives you? Because I resonate with that so much. I think the reason I became an entrepreneur was because I've always said this. When I was 10 years old, my parents weren't there when I went to bed and they weren't there when I woke up. And being the youngest of 4, it was like they
So child abuse.
I've also been parented already. So
child abuse is what is going to create a strong entrepreneur, is what he's saying, basically.
Void of independence. I conducted a lot of experiments. And I almost hear that in what you're saying as well. That unsupervision allowed for exploration, that allowed for something.
Yeah, I think it's like necessity is the mother of invention. And I think, if you're 10 and your parents all of a sudden are absent, you're just forced to figure shit out. It's funny because like all I want to do as a parent now is protect my children from the hardships I had when I was little. But it is those hardships I had that made me who I am. And it is like this impossible dichotomy to address. It's impossible as a parent. Like I constantly think I'm fucking up my kids. Like we send them to a private school because we can. Like if you can afford it, which we can, we're fortunate. Like why would I not send them?
Why are they testing the fire alarms now?
In the back of my brain, I think what's best for them is to be in some New York City public school figuring it out. Like I think that's what's best, but I don't do that.
Today they were supposed to be doing an inspection. I thought the inspection would be like walking in and looking at the stuff, not playing this crazy fire alarm through the speakers.
Like, am I helping them? I don't know. But no, I think that exactly what you were saying, like I had no choice but to figure it out when I was little. Like I worked from like when I was super young, I figured out how to make $1. Like I was a paper boy when I was really, really young, delivering newspapers. And I'd make like $30 a week. And then, when I got to
was that really necessary?
Smoking pot, and I realized like the math behind weed sales. I was like, okay, there's a 400%, a 4x return if you buy quarter ounces and you break them down and you sell them as dime bags. But if you buy a quarter pound and you sell them as eighths, you're looking at a 1,600% return. I was like, okay, so how do I come up with $250 to buy the QP, and then let me break that down. And then like, I haven't hit puberty yet. I'm a little kid. Like these guys are going to beat the shit out of me if I mess with the wrong people. So I need to befriend the guys that can protect me and like figure out that business. All of that was because I didn't have a choice.
Why were you unsupervised? Where were your parents?
Because he had bad
and this is what I mean when I say my parents were accidentally great. And I do think they tried their best. Like my dad worked a zillion hours a week. He had no choice. I think we lived like a very middle class livelihood. Like my parents had like nice cars. They had Volvos, but they always bought like 5-year-old Volvos, never new cars. And like we lived in a house that was like comfortable, but like, there's never any food in our house. It was like, it was fine. We always made it by. Like we'd go on vacation, but it was always like in the back of the station wagon, and we'd go to like a town 2 hours away and stay in a shitty motel for 2 or 3 nights. But my dad worked all the time. And I only understood later that it was very like hand to mouth. He's paycheck to paycheck kind of guy. And my mother, I still don't understand my mom. I think she was one of 8 kids. My mother is the tail end of an aristocracy. So it's like, I always describe her side of the family as like all the privilege and entitlement of an aristocrat with none of the money. So my mother was just always kind of an enigma and always kind of absent. And I think that they tried the best they could, and we were just kind of left wandering as kids.
They divorced at some point?
Yeah, that's when things got really hard.
In what way?
I think that childhood always felt like you were sort of hanging on by a thread. I was like one of 4. My older brother, Van, was the firstborn. And Van is such an incredible guy, and he's so magnetic. And then there's my sister, who's the only girl. And then there's my little baby brother, Dean, who was the baby. And then I was just kind of this like accident that happened 13 months after my sister and 2 years before my brother. Like it was just, so it was like I was always the loudest and the squeakiest to get the most attention. And, that was, I kind of think that like characterized what the challenges were for me as a kid growing up. And then it just got, the tumult of living in that house just kind of precipitated until my parents split up, which happened under very like auspicious, shitty, fucked up circumstances, and kids being blamed when the kids shouldn't have been blamed. And I say all that without faulting my parents. Again, I think they were trying their best, but looking back at it, it's like, what the fuck, guys?
I heard you say previously that you had to tell your father that your mother had cheated on him.
Yeah, I remember that vividly.
That's crazy.
We were sitting at. I can remember his.
That's
posture.
fucking insane.
Response to it. But yeah, my mother, she's a good woman. She has faults like all of us humans have faults.
Homie was
but
a
I think
snitch.
She let those manifest in a way that were really dark at that time in her life. And it was apparent to me as a 14-year-old exactly what was going on. Exactly what was going on. It was so fucking crystal clear.
As a 14-year-old?
Yeah, like abundantly clear. And I never really understood my own father's perspective on that.
Homie was a little snitch, man.
Now it's like, he's working a million hours a week to keep his head above water. And also, like, you don't want to see
Homie
that.
breaking down the family out here. What the hell,
So just,
Casey?
like, put your head in the sand and ignore it is a very natural response to it. But I was like fighting with my mother at the time.
Also, get another goddamn pair of Ray-Bans, bro.
All kinds of the shit that
Them shits are beat to heck. You can tell. Look at that.
All of that. So I was mad at her. And I think part of me addressing that was just sort of confronting my dad. Like, what are you going to do about this woman?
At 14 years old, you knew your mother was cheating on your father. And you told him.
Yeah.
How does one know that?
How does one know that? You caught him clapping cheeks.
It was super apparent. I mean, there's a handful of very specific situations that just made it abundantly clear. And, I think that's why, like, at the time, obviously fault my mom through and through, but looking back at it, it was probably something closer to like a cry for help or a cry for attention or just a way of her, her letting the struggle she was facing and the totality of her life manifest. Like, this is the only way I can express it is by doing this kind of fucked up, awful thing.
As you step out of that chapter of your childhood, what are the fingerprints, the character fingerprints that are left on you that still are with you today? What did that chapter of your life, those first sort of 15 years?
I don't think anything has changed. Like, I don't think it's even fingerprints. It was so like acute the way that I saw my future when I was that young. Like, I knew exactly my plan.
Really?
And exactly my plan. And look, the specifics of how that plan was going to come together were ambiguous at best. But like, I knew exactly my plan. Like, New York City was always the plan. I remember it was like page 41 in my social studies book was a 2-page spread of the New York City skyline. And I wouldn't let myself look at that page because I would have such an emotional response to it. Like Tom Hanks in the movie Big, I would play that movie on repeat because I was like, that's me. Like, that's me. I'm going to move to New York City and get to be the kid that I wish I could be. Like, that's me. To this day, like, I know every word of that movie. That movie is like a Bible for me. It is a roadmap for me. But, like I've made 500 YouTube videos about this single idea, but like the mission of my life, and this was defined then when I was a little kid, the sole mission of my life is to realize all the promises I made to myself as a kid. Like when you're a little kid and you're like, someday I'm going to be an astronaut. And like your mom yells at you and it's like, well, someday I'm going to have kids and I'm not going to yell at them. Or like you're fucking hungry and you're all out of mac and cheese and you're like, someday I'm going to have a refrigerator that's always filled up with food. Like whatever it is. You have a boss that's an asshole and it's like, someday I'm not going to have any boss. And like all of those promises, like my promises could, they could fill up a phone book. And my sole mission was always like, no, I have to check every single one of these off. The how was always gray, but the to do it was always vivid. And there was never even a doubt that it was going to happen. Like there was never an if, ever. There was nothing even close to that.
But life throws at you at that age things that you could never have predicted. And
guys, we're doing fire inspection today. Jesus, man.
Mission.
First they blow that crazy fire alarm. Now they come in here looking at all the
moved out is such a funny way.
All the stuff, making sure that we don't burn down in the middle of the night.
I got in a fight with my mom at age 15 on a Monday night.
This guy was 14 years old. He ratted out his mom. That's crazy.
Ultimatum. This is when she and my father were like, really, they were splitting up and getting back together. It was like a really gnarly time in the family. But we got into this fight, and I just remember thinking, like, I was so mad at her at the time. I was like, you can't tell me what to do. And she was like, you need to do this, this, and this, or get out of this house. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna go. And I just like left.
Where did you go?
That night I stayed at a friend's house down the street because his parents were like weirdly religious, but also kind of absent. They were always like very warm to me. So I was like, hey, can I sleep here? And he's like, yeah, sure. And I slept at another friend's house and then...
So you ran away from home?
Yeah. So as they moved out, it wasn't like, put the couch over there. And yeah. It was like, I just took a backpack and it was as close to like a stick with a red handkerchief on the back. But I eventually moved in with these two girls. They were great. They were super fun.
He said he moved in with 2 girls.
And, you know, they were like, let's say I was 15. I think they were 17 or 18.
That's crazy.
And then, yeah, I started, you know, one of them, she and I kind of got close. And then like immediately she was pregnant. And a year later we had a kid.
That's
and that
freaking
was
crazy.
Challenging. But even so, like I never.
Homie was a 15-year-old father. What the
fuck? Like, she
fuck?
started freaking out in the car because she was like, you know, 8 months pregnant. And she's like crying and just like, you know, dealing with it. And I pulled over and I was like, what are you upset about? And she was like, what are we going to do? We don't have any money. Like, you don't even have a job. Like, what are we going to do? And I was like,
This guy's life story is crazy.
It's going to be fine. We're going to have a kid. It's going to be great. It's going to be fine.
Were you not scared?
Then, no. It just, everything made sense. I was like, oh, this is great.
This guy's a
There's a
psychopath.
naivety
Dude.
to
It's beautiful. Now I'm scared. I always say that, like, I had nothing to lose then. Like, I had nothing. Nothing. Like, I had no reputation. You know, like, my friends' parents all thought I was a fucking degenerate. They wouldn't let me hang around with my friends because I was such a bad influence. So it wasn't like I had, like, a reputation. Nobody knew me.
And
I had
now look
nothing.
at
I had
him.
no money. I had no resources. I knew no one. And when you have nothing to lose, you're just like a rat that's cornered. And it was like, oh, I'm going to chew my way out of this one. And now I'm so scared at everything I do in life because I'm like, it's so good right now. I don't want to fuck anything up. Take it really easy. Like, I'm really happy right now. Like, I want to protect what I've got. But no, there was a naivety then that was just, it's hard for me to empathize with how like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, naive I was. I remember when like my son, Owen, when she and I split up, you know, she dumped me because I was just such a pain in the ass, and God bless her for doing so. But I remember I was like, okay, I've got a plan. In 5 years, I'm going to move to New York City and I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that.
What were you going to do in New York?
I don't know. I had some cockamamie plan. There's always a plan. I don't know what the specifics were, but I knew that like up until that point in my life, I'd only ever worked in the back of restaurants, washing dishes or like being like a prep cook or just being like the low man in the totem pole who takes out the trash and scrubs out the garbage cans and like does all the shit work, mop. This is the only job I'd ever done. My father sold used restaurant supplies. So like if you need to do oven or walk-in fridge, so he could always get me jobs in restaurants. And I remember like moving to New York City, my only plan was like, I'm just not going to work in a restaurant. That's my plan. I'm going to do anything that's not work. But I had this 5-year plan to move to New York City. And like,
looks like we're almost done with work for today, guys. I need to make something to eat.
Like a 19-year-old kid that quits.
And then we can chill.
So up until that point,
I have one more meeting at 11.
As a guy that's in their 40s, about the brilliant accidental decisions you were making at the time. Like, what are the the accidental brilliance that is probably objectively stupidity? Like, that's a stupid decision. But in hindsight, you go, I was a genius.
You know, I never would say in hindsight I was a genius. It was raw stupidity and fearlessness. But it's like all those stupid fucking quotes that everybody posts on Instagram that like I hate about like, you know, you only live once, follow your dreams, pursue this. Like, fuck you, fuck every you. I hate that shit. I hate inspo porn, even though I'm very guilty of fanning the flames of inspo porn. But like, there's so much truth to all of that. And the reason why I hate that shit is like, if you have to be told that, it's too late. If you're going to learn that from an Instagram post, it means nothing to you.
Most people watch motivational Instagram posts and they never follow through on it anyway.
People just put it up there to feel good about themselves. But
if we're keeping it 100,
it is true. And what I mean by that is like, I could never do at age 42 what I could do at age 19, which is just say, fuck it. I've got a 10th grade education, no high school diploma, no work experience, no life experience, and a 2-year-old. What's the best thing I can do right now? I know, let me move to the most expensive, challenging city in the world with no plan. If I hadn't done it then, I don't know that you could ever do that. And I think that like when I say those cheesy quotes are true, it's like you kind of have an obligation in life that if you feel something that is so powerful to you, like follow through with that. And I'm not naive to that now. I wasn't naive to it then, but I think now I can articulate it, which is like this idea of privilege. Like, if you're like born in the United States of America, if you like get to sit at a table and do this, like, no, I wasn't a rich kid. And like, yeah, I was like on welfare and got free diapers and milk from the state. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to feed my child. And like, I worked 60 hours a week in a kitchen making $8 an hour. I think I got $7.25 an hour was my starting salary. And like, I'm like the luckiest person in the world to get to do that. Are you crazy? Like, do you know?
Honestly, America is one of the only countries in the world where you can start out with this guy nothing, a 15-year-old father, and make it to be multi-millionaire status based on your skills alone.
I'm the lucky. I won the
One of the only countries in the world where you have such upward mobility.
And it's like, oh, a little hiccup.
And most of you guys are not taking advantage of it. The fact that you're watching this stream right now makes me know that instead of you being a creator, you're a consumer.
Let's do it.
That's the first thing you need to stop doing. You have to stop being a consumer and focus on being a creator.
When people say that, my response is like,
Adding value to society is the only way you're going to be able to make money in society and grow.
One time in the history of humanity,
Damn, this today is not the day.
The written word 5,000 years ago. Name one time when people had the kind of opportunity that like people like us born in the West have.
Goddamn alarms.
Like that has never existed before. Never, ever. Maybe it's a little bit easier for our parents. You know what I mean? Like maybe like post-war USA was like a little bit easier than it is now. Or maybe now it's a little bit harder than it was for me 20 years ago. But like still, give me a fucking break. Like this life is like, it's the hardships we face now are so menial compared to what they were 100 years ago. Objectively, 200 years ago. You ever see that thing that went viral and it was like the reasons why people died in London in the year 1892? And like the fourth most popular cause of death was teeth. like 60% of the
That's
population
crazy.
dies, their teeth are fucked up. Like we have it pretty easy.
Why don't people? So there's going to be another guy right now that's like washing pots in the back room at the seafood restaurant on the $7 an hour. And he might be listening to this right now and he hears you say that, but why don't people take action beyond that point and take the big bet when they've objectively potentially nothing to lose?
Oh, what's that line from, is it Caddyshack or Fletch when he's like, the world needs ditch diggers too? That's a very cynical take on it, but I think a very practical take is like, not everybody wants it. And I think that's okay.
No, most people want it, but they're not willing to put in the work and the effort to get
Like
it.
in life, you can get whatever you want, but you can't want whatever you want. If you don't want it, there's no creating that.
But do you think sometimes people want to want it, but they don't really want it?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
I think that's it.
You know,
You hit it on the nail.
If you really fucking wanted it, you wouldn't
You get up your ass and get it if you want it.
Podcasts, they make you make that decision. You'd already be fucking doing it. And that's not to be defeatist. It just means that like the only goal that anyone should have in life is one of happiness and fulfillment. And like this idea that you have to win to be happy could not be further from the truth. Like, why do we hear about rock stars and famous actors and these people that we see as sort of like the absolute apex of success in the industry? Why are they all fucking killing themselves and dying of alcoholism and like all that darkness happening at the highest level? It's like, because that doesn't equal happiness. Like, what is happiness for you? And an example I like to point to is like my best friend in the whole world. We grew up together. Like, I ran away from home. I stayed with him for a little while. Like we've been together since we were kids. You know, like when I moved to New York, he stayed in
Casey Neistat
and like
is such a good inspirational
he literally
speaker. However, you gotta also recognize that a lot of this is luck. This is a 1 in a million. 1 in a million time
25 years ago. He's got 3 amazing
outcome.
kids. He lives like a very, what I would say is like very classic archetype.
But as Tate always says, if you put 100% of your energy into something, you really try,
of like
you don't hold back at all, it's impossible for you to fail. The problem is that most people struggle to put even 75% into something. And it's easy to talk. Talk is cheap. Action is hard.
Was being like, fuck this.
Perfect example is me with YouTube. It took me 3 years to even make my first video on YouTube.
Was something completely different.
Until one day I just decided I'm going to do it. Stop talking, stop planning, stop analyzing the situation, just go out and do it.
To that. And that's why I think like
and look at me now.
The pie in the sky is just one of happiness and fulfillment and defining those.
But you do whatever makes you happy, you know? The thing is, if you're miserable in your situation and you choose not to take action to change it, that's on you.
In Australia, who interviewed people with one day left to live, and she asked them what their biggest regret in their life was. And the number one regret of the dying was not living a life true to myself. And for those people,
okay, that sounds like a bunch of bullshit. Because how would they know that the person's gonna die the next day?
Business, or I don't know, become a ballet dancer in Europe or whatever, that are held back by potentially some form of fear. You know, is there anything that one can offer them to get
Fear is the mind killer.
that first initial step, which seems to be the hardest, like getting off the couch or getting out of quitting the job, that you might offer to your children if they came to you?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that failure is, I think failure is like the greatest gift. I think failure is like, it hurts so bad, but failure is a part of life. And if you're not willing to accept that, like failure is part of it, you've got to keep failing. Anvil, the story of Anvil. You know this? I made a whole video about this. So I made a YouTube video about this. And then there's a movie called Anvil. I think it's called The Story of Anvil or something like that. Anvil was this like big hair rock band in the 80s. And they opened for like Def Leppard, you know, like 50,000 people kind of thing. But they never headlined. They never broke through. They were always the opening act. They were always like the bridesmaid, never the bride. And the movie opens showing these huge concerts in the 80s and Anvil just rocking out. And then it cuts and it shows the lead singer. And he lives in Canada and he drives
Guys are trash.
He delivers food to old people making minimum wage, like barely able to keep his head above water. And he performs still in his leather outfits as like this middle-aged 50-year-old guy to like 6 people. And they'll be just drinking beer and he's there giving it his all.
That's so sad.
And the movie is about how relentless this guy, like he's just not willing. He borrows money from his sister to record an album. Nobody buys it, can't pay her back. She's got kids and shit. Like it is the most devastating story you've ever seen because he's unwilling to give up that dream. Like he just wouldn't let it go. This is his whole life. And then this documentary comes out and it's fucking fantastic. And because of the documentary, Anvil blows up. And all of a sudden, he is that superstar, like on tour, selling out arenas in Japan and shit. Like he did it. Had he given up at any point in time, the documentary wouldn't have been interesting. It would have just been another person who threw in the towel. But they made this, like a filmmaker saw this.
Makes you wonder what?
That's crazy.
What series of events caused the outcome not to be the same for them in the past, though?
He would have never found success. And I think that's the most extreme.
Like, why didn't they blow up in the 80s?
The reason why I was interrupting myself.
Was it decisions they've made or is it just luck?
That's basically the story I just told you. And like the director reached out and was like, whatever the guy's name, the lead singer of Anvil, he's like, dude, he loved your YouTube video. And I was like, yes. I was like starstruck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think failure is overrated. I think people are so scared of failure. And I think the fear of failure is that it's the fear of what other people are going to think about you.
Persistence. That's what I heard through that story as well. Just this almost objectively delusional persistence towards a goal. And I don't know if those words are correct because in that situation, I question whether Anvil's success was ever really making it or the journey itself was the success. But in your story, I see the same level of like persistence that a bystander would go, that guy's crazy. Because there was various stats I saw about how long it took you to get to various success milestones. Even when you started daily vlogging, I think it took you 5 years to get to like 400,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
Throughout your story, there's this persistence where I go, this guy would have carried on doing this because he wasn't doing this for any particular milestone. What role does persistence play?
Sometimes, in my opinion, you need to get away from having the outcome be the goal and just focus on the journey. It's like me with the YouTube vlogging. So the vlogging, I feel like at some point I kind of lost my way a little bit with the vlogging and I was too focused on the outcome and instead of the journey. So the content itself isn't as engaging because you can tell that it's too pre-planned. Now with streaming, I've changed my idea and my opinion and my goal. And my goal is just to watch content, have fun watching it, and react to it. And if this channel blows up, it blows up. If it doesn't blow up, it doesn't blow up. But focusing on the outcome can drag you down sometimes, and it can actually affect what happens. In other words, me reacting to content and having fun doing it will probably result in a bigger growth of the channel than me hyper focusing on gaining subscriptions. And I think that's probably what my issue has been with my main YouTube channel, focusing too much on the final goal.
I think persistence is like under the picture of like a little kitten hanging off the branch. It's like persistence.
But I'm yet to give up, so we'll see where it goes.
So unattractive. And when people say to me, like, what's the one piece of advice you give to an aspiring creator? And, patience. Like patience above because like if you're not willing to give up, if you're willing to stick with it forever, you will find success or you'll die trying, in which case, fuck it, like whatever. You're not going to be that person in the palliative care saying, I wish I hadn't given up, because you didn't give up. You just kept going. You're going to be that person who's like, I've got one day left. I can still pull this shit off. But patience is a really unsexy way of saying it. And I think you need to remove the sexiness. You need to remove the sensationalism that inspiration has been perverted with, is this idea of like it's this romantic, beautiful thing. It's not. It's fucking awful. Like failing year in and year out and having everybody roll their eyes at you. And like,
I think you're crazy.
Whether you're a musician who's performing at the mall.
The same thing happens to me all the time. Like I have my camera, I go to car shows, and people are like, why is he still doing this? Why hasn't he given up? Why is he always walking around with that big ass camera? What is up with this guy? What's his problem? And all those people are haters until the moment hits, until I get a hit, until my channel blows up. And then those same people that are out here criticizing and wondering why I'm doing it will try and become supporters. That's how it is in life. You have to ignore everything around you. Just focus on your goals, hyper focus on continuing the journey, whether you see outcomes or not, studying the feedback you receive and adjusting, pivoting to improve based on the feedback that you've received. Maybe I'm just yapping here. Maybe I'm cooking. You guys let me know.
It's fucking awful. It's embarrassing. You're a loser. Like I talked to Mr. Beast, Jimmy, and it's like his war stories from when he started YouTube and he was using his like mom's busted compact computer with a built-in webcam, making these videos that no one watched. They're all deleted, scrubbed from the internet now. They're terrible. And just like him going to school the next day, and it's like two of his friends from school saw him and both acknowledged how terrible they were. Like that kind of like
that sucks.
Being told that's failure. Being told you suck over and over and over and over, and then seeing how much you suck be quantified by a lack of views, or no one showing up to your concert, or no one laughing at your jokes because you're a stand-up comedian, or no one showing up at your restaurant because you're a chef. Like that sucks. Starting an online store, no one buys your fucking t-shirts. That sucks. Failure sucks. So like combine that with patience. Like that suck. Are you willing to do that for 20 years? If you're not, don't fucking bother, man. Don't bother. And that's why I like the plainness of the word patience, is because that is what it is. There's nothing persistence. Persistence is like, oh, you're at mile 22. Persist, man. You'll get across the finish line in 4 short miles. That's beautiful and fun and hardcore.
That patience that you and Mr. Beast have both shown, and many others, where does it come from? Because objectively, any sane person, if everyone's telling them they're a loser and they suck and their parents are saying, you better go get a real job, anyone who's acting in line with their apparent incentives in that moment would quit.
I think very simply it comes for me.
He's stubborn. That's where it comes from.
We've talked about it. He and I have talked about it, but
same as me.
Plan B. There's no other option.
And discipline.
Like I had no backup plan. There was nothing else I could do. It wasn't like I had a college education and there was like a job in an ad agency waiting for me where I could just say, fuck it, and go make $80K a year and get a nicer apartment and relax.
I think this is true though as well. If you don't have a fallback and you don't have an escape plan and all that you have is what you're working on, you are going to work harder because it's sink or swim. That's what he's explaining here. Sink or swim. And a lot of the times, for example, me, you guys are watching me right now. I'm live streaming. I have the YouTube channel, but I'm also working on my job. If I didn't have this job and my whole income depended on this YouTube channel, perhaps I'd be doing something different. Perhaps I'd be really, really, really putting 1,000% into this. Even though I do feel like I am doing that at the moment. I mean, I've been streaming for 4 days so far. And for those 4 days, I've streamed at least 8 hours a day. But who knows? Maybe if this was my sole source of income, I would be doing something even crazier than that. Or I'd be IRL streaming or something. So he's 100% right. It's sink or swim for most people. And that's why he made it.
$725 an hour.
That's why he's KCS NASDAQ.
Getting money from the state so I can pay for like groceries on a fucking wick.
Adversity
Women, infants,
builds strength.
You'd swipe it and you would pay for your diapers and milk, and that's it. If you tried to buy like a Nintendo with it, it wouldn't work. Like that, I remember that. That was the fallback. That was the alternative. Every single turn, that was the alternative. Like I moved to New York City and I was here for 3 months. I had a 3-month sublet that my brother's ex-girlfriend paid for. She was like, I'll loan you the money. And I was like, cool.
That's crazy though. That he had people around him that would help him at least.
And it was like $1,800, $600 a month, $400 a month for 3 months. I shared it. In any event, that lease was up. I had nowhere to live in New York. And I was like, fuck, what do I do now? And I moved in with this guy was like, hey man, I need extra money. If you want to sleep on my couch, my dad pays my rent. So you could sleep on my couch and just give me like $300 a month. And that way the money goes to me. And I was like, deal. And I slept on his couch for exactly 11 nights from September 1st to September 11th, 2001. And then the morning of September 11th, the entire apartment blew up with me in it and him in it. Wow. And I remember like later that day, like getting on the phone with my dad and like the towers are still on fire. And my dad being like, I think it's time for you to come home now, come back. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? Why would I come back? And he was like, terrorists blew up your apartment. You have no job. You have no prospects. You have no money. And
this guy's life sounds like a disaster movie.
I'm like, I'll figure that out. I'll be fine. Later, Dad. Like that's patience. That's delusional patience.
That's psychopathy.
But you asked why? Like, what fuels that patience? Well, the plan B was literally moving back to Southeastern Connecticut and getting a job in a restaurant.
I read a study once about this whole idea of plan A thinking, and they take a group of people and they tell them to do a puzzle. And in exchange for doing the puzzle correctly, they'll get a snack. So they take 2 groups and they say, okay, do this puzzle. If you do it correctly, you'll get a snack. Then they take another group and they say, do the same puzzle. If you do it correctly, you'll get a snack. But then they say to the group, you can also get the same snack just down the hall in the vending machine. And in the second group, where they're given a plan B to get the snack, motivation levels drop. They spend less time trying to do the puzzle.
Of course, dude. Why would they?
Plummets as well. Just by being aware that they can get the same reward down the hall, performance drops. And if there was ever a case for the psychology, and they've done this multiple times in multiple studies, but it is pretty solid evidence that even the presence of a plan B can reduce motivation towards your plan A.
That's why I canceled my 401k.
Completely. I mean, like, I wish I knew that study because that's such a beautiful illustration of what it is. And also,
be right back, guys. I'm going to make a quick bowl of cereal. This is my breakfast, by the way. This is how much I am sacrificing for you, Emma, first. I'm sacrificing so much for you because I want this channel to grow. So I haven't even eaten breakfast yet. I've been streaming for 2 hours, 56 minutes so far.
Eaten alive. Like, I have one choice, and it's to keep going as fast as I can, or I'll be torn to pieces. And that's what it felt like. And I love that. Like, that sounds so like negative and dark, but like, I love that.
And I just realized that this is muted.
And I pitied the friends. Like, I remember I first moved to New York City.
Because I changed.
My first summer here. I don't know how, but I like fell in with this like
sound input
of, because I thought the girls were pretty, but like these rich kids. And I'd go out with them. And I just remember like the way they would pick up the tab. And they're my age. We're all like 19, 20 years old. And they're picking up like, hundreds of dollar bar tabs and like always had taxis. And like a taxi to me was like, it's like a private jet. I got all this money and I would always kind of.
Okay, guys, be right back. I'm going to go grab something to eat really quick.
Jealousy and like, it was less of a jealousy and more just fantasize. Like, imagine if I was the same age I am now, but I had a credit card with an unlimited amount of money. Like I went to her apartment. She lives on like the 26th floor. She has a 2-bedroom apartment and she lives alone. I'm sharing a 200 square foot studio with strangers I met on Craigslist. We have to wait in line to use the bathroom in the morning. And I fantasized about what that would be like. And then seeing as they got older and as I got older, them sort of wandering and not sure where they want to go in life and all of that. Whereas for me, it was such a, there was such a defined path because I didn't have any of those luxuries or any of those benefits that I now look back at that as like being virtuous.
So how do you do that for your kids?
Well, that's the $1 million question because it's like I never want my kids to feel that bullshit that I had to feel, like the shame of like always hiding in the bathroom when the bill came. I would always, I would always do something. I wasn't just like a total take, but like, I just, I always kind of felt like a scumbag because I was never able to contribute the way that other people were. And like, that's a really shameful thing. And like, I can remember so many times, like when I would meet a young lady and she'd be like, "Can we go back to your place?" And the excuses that I would come up with. Because I like lived in an SRO for a while. I lived in a halfway house that I bribed my way into.
A halfway house, for anyone that doesn't know, in Europe is
It's where you get out of jail and you're not allowed to live normally yet in the public.
Right.
So they put you into a building where they can monitor you.
How did you get in there?
I bribed the guy at the door. There was like a guy behind glass with like a little slot. And you'd have to check in and check out. And I went there and I was like, "Hey, do you have any open rooms?" And he was like, "No, get out of here." And I came back with a carton of cigarettes with a $100 bill in it. And I was like, "I need a room." And he was like, "All right." He's like, 531 is yours, write your name there. And he was like, "It's $450 a month cash," or whatever it was.
Interestingly, when you tell that story of being in a halfway house and having no money and all these things, objectively, someone looks at that situation and goes, "Oh man, I feel so sorry for you." Like,
I was so psyched.
But this speaks to how a mindset and a perspective can turn hell into heaven or heaven into hell.
Yeah, I mean, like the reason why I learned about that is I had a friend, her
cereal for breakfast, and then I'll come back and make something a little bit heavier in a bit.
Bribe the door guy. And he's like, "It's cool. It's like, don't talk to anybody in the building." And he's like, "Some of the people in here are undocumented immigrants, and a lot of them are like, they just got out of jail." I was like, "Okay, that's cool." And he's like, "Some of them are homeless people that were given these rooms." I'm like, "Okay, I can handle all that." And like told me the whole thing of how to get in there, and there's no bathroom and no kitchen.
How did this change, Casey? I know video had come into your life around.
Video came into my life before I moved to New York City.
Right,
that was the catalyst. My baby mama dumped me. I came into New York to hang around my brother Van, who I like worshipped. And he had just bought, he was doing like temp work.
Right.
He lived in Brooklyn. He had bought the first iMac, like the one that was like shaped like a big blue TV.
Mm-hmm.
And it came with like footage of like a dog in a plastic like kiddie pool, a pool for children to play, and the dog was getting a bath. So you could edit with the footage that came with it. And he and I would just kind of edit that footage over and over. So we didn't have a camera. So I bought a camera and he had a computer, and I came in and we'd like film stuff and then edit videos of it. And I was like, I can figure this out. And I like maxed out a credit card and started making terrible videos. And then I was like, that's it. I'll become a filmmaker. And then I moved to New York. Like it was one of the 3 things I brought to New York when I moved here was this huge iMac.
I'm gonna be honest.
Full of clothes, and then like my BMX bike.
Buying a Mac is always, for me, been a catalyst of creativity.
Yeah.
When I bought my first Mac, I started learning how to code. I started doing graphic design. I started doing all this stuff. Macs are just the artist computer.
I had an answer to that, but I don't know if this is why I was drawn to it, or maybe I've just said this so many times it's become my default response. But I definitely felt like I never had a voice. I think it's because I was like that 3rd out of 4 kids, or like I never did well in school. I was always in trouble, so teachers never listened to me. I was always in trouble and getting in fights and stuff, so my friends' parents never liked me. And I just felt like I was never heard. And then I started to make videos. I was able to kind of articulate my thoughts or an idea in the form of a video, and people would respond to that. So I think that was part of it. But I don't know. I think I also just liked it. Like there was something about it that felt so fun. And there was something in the end that you would have that was like this finished, done thing.
Did you like movies?
Yeah, but I was never like a cinephile as a kid. You know, like I had my favorites. You know, like I loved the movie Big. And I do remember in 7th grade, we got to do this program where you could like choose a profession and then you got to go do that job. And like there's a Pfizer pharmaceutical had like its headquarters in a nearby town. And so like a lot of the kids went there to be chemists or scientists, and they got to go spend like 2 hours at Pfizer. There's a submarine military base. A lot of kids got to go onto the base and see what it's like to be in the Navy. And mine was, I want to work at a video rental store because I want to get paid, just sit and watch movies all day. And they're like, all right, I guess we could organize that for you. And I remember going there and it was like this kid and he was like, yeah, I worked a day shift. Nobody ever comes by. And I was like, what do we do? And he's like, we have to put away those movies. It took like 3 minutes. And I was like, now what do we do? And he's like, just wait for customers. So we just sat there and watched TV for like 8 hours. I was like, this is a job I could get into. But I don't think it was like the, you know, like the Quentin Tarantino where he worked in a video store and studied film. I never had that.
Do you think that's part of the reason you were successful at it though? Because your style has always been so clearly original in so many ways. That's how it feels. It feels like you are, in fact, someone that didn't go to movie school, and that's why people resonate with it.
Yeah, I mean, I always say that like my filmmaking style is because I was never taught the right way to do it. So I was forced to find my own way to do it. And I think that kind of thinking is at the same time as sort of like consumer grade video creation became this ubiquitous thing with computers and editing software and cameras for the first time ever in the history of humanity. You could, in like the early 2000s, you could buy like a DV, digital video camera, and you could buy a computer and plug it in. You could edit your own videos. So my aspiration to make videos and this machine that let you do it, those happened at the exact same time. And because of that, I was forced to create my own style. Like my hard drive was 10 gigabytes. I could edit like, it was like 12 or 16 minutes of video before the hard drive was full. So no, I made really short videos, and that's why. It was like I didn't have a choice. I had to be a short video. But I do think, yeah, like the lack of formal education in that capacity forced me to be a different kind of filmmaker, or approach it differently anyway.
Do you look back, I'm so compelled by originality as like a subject and the power of originality, because when a couple of people in society or the world or business or creativity or movies take the risk of being original, the issue is they draw in, and that originality is resonant. They draw in a big audience who then look up to them and almost confuse their admiration for that person with their aspirations for themselves and go, I will create like Casey. And that is the way to be successful.
Sorry about that, guys. Just had to get something into my body, some fuel.
Because there can be no other Casey.
It was tremendously flawed. It's what I fucking hate about YouTube. I call this like the Mr. Beastification of YouTube. And I have to be very careful here. Jimmy's a genius. What Mr. Beast has done on YouTube is brilliant. And it's because of his brilliance. So this is not to take away from him at all. I think he is incredible what he's done. And he has no control.
What he's done is incredible, but the problem is that everybody's copying him.
But the fact that millions of people are trying to emulate what he's doing, that is the Mr. Beastification of the platform that I hate.
We can't have hundreds of Mr. Beasts.
He's very honest. His goal has never been like, ask me my goal, and now in the most sort of intellectual of terms, I'll look back at it and I'll be like, video for me has always been a way of a refined self-expression, for me to take my thoughts and force them into this sort of articulate 6-8 minute compartmentalized little video and share it with the world. Like that's been my motivation. Jimmy's from day one has just been fine success. He was a kid who had no money, he had no resources, he had no friends, he had nothing. And he's like, this is a tool I can use to take me to the highest planes of business and all of that. Jimmy is just as passionate about his chocolate company, Feastables, as he is about his video creation company, you know, Mr. Beast Enterprise. He's just as passionate about his philanthropy, being successful and helping as many people as possible, as he is about making a video about what it means to live in $1 million house. Like his passion is about that winning. So for him, it's beautiful. But in the most reductive sense, when people look at that, they're like, hey, that's what it means to be a YouTuber. All that matters is views. And I put next to no value on that. None. Again, this isn't to take away from Jimmy because what he's done is incredible. But when people aspire just to get that view count up, to me, it's a race to the bottom. I fucking hate it. I hate it. And I do think it's because of...
Well, it strips the content of all creativity, to be honest.
So they look to see, well, who's successful? That's how I'm
editing
successful,
style,
let me be
everything.
that.
It's just
And it will
nothing's
never
original
work.
anymore.
It will never work. It requires sort of an introspection.
And it might work for the first
Why do I wanna do
50,
this?
100 people who copied him, but
And then you go and do
if
that.
everybody's doing it, it
And you'll
loses
find
its
success, maybe
impact.
you won't, but at least it'll be true.
Why does truth end up mattering more in that case than views? So if there's one path here and I can get 1 million subscribers by just doing a Jimmy or Casey knockoff channel, or there's this other path which I go, oh, there's no blueprint here and it's never been done before and I don't think anyone's going to like this stuff and it's probably not going to pay my bills. Why? What's the case for pursuing the latter, the true path?
I think that truth lasts. Truth matters. Like there's no correlation rather between the movies that have won Best Picture, the Academy Award for Best Picture over the last 8
Hey,
years.
yo, what's up, man? Yeah, send me the link and I'll listen to it after this, after I finish watching this podcast.
4 times. Like one of them, I think, was Gone with the Wind, meaning that the movies that the world determines are the most quality, most important, greatest films, the greatest contribution to culture and humanity are almost never the same movies that make the most money. Transformers 9 was a really cool movie. I don't fucking remember what happened. I think there was a dinosaur in it. But like, you see a movie that affects you. You see a movie that matters to you. You see Little Dieter Needs to Fly, this documentary by Werner Herzog. You see the Anvil story. And you're
Well,
thinking,
a lot of the
I'm
times
saying
with this,
story in 5 years,
what he's
I think about
explaining
that
is that the
movie.
content, when it's
That
genuine,
lasts.
it might not
So
become
that
famous
matters.
at the moment,
And
but
me
it will
as a
eventually if
42-year-old
it was
grown
good quality
adult, like,
content.
I know in life that's
But
what
with
matters.
Anvil, they got lucky.
There'll
Like, they
always-
could have
there'll
easily
always be
died
junk food. There'll always be an
and got
appetite
famous
for it.
after they died.
There'll
It's just
always
the
be an
documentary
appetite
really
for
boosted
fucking
them.
reality TV and bullshit and, you know, like whatever pops.
Well, it looks like I'm done with work for today. I have one meeting, and after that meeting, I am free for the rest of the afternoon.
Write that song that, like,
That's why I love this
makes you
career.
cry. Like you'll never forget that. So for me, like if
That is
if
why I
you-
love this career,
if you
because
wanna be an artist,
I don't need to work for hours and hours every single day. I can work for 2-3 hours a day, and that is enough for me to be able to make a living and create the content I want.
Done that through video creation, but again, neither here nor there. Not to digress. For me, it's like great work matters, and it does. It changes people. Changes me. Look at the work that like Spike Jonze did. Not his Oscar award-winning movies, but like I look at his little weirdo music videos that I used to watch when I was a kid, and I watched those music videos over and over. What's Up, Fat Lip? The music video that he made with Fat Lip, who was like the kind of a popular hip hop artist who didn't have any money, and he was like, "I got this new song, Spike, but I don't have any money to make the video." So they went out and they're like, put Fat Lip in a clown costume, and they filmed it on a VHS camera. It's like one of my favorite music videos ever. But I saw that and I was like, I can be a filmmaker. Now, if he had made a video just trying to get the most views or whatever it was, instead of just him and his friend Fat Lip trying to make something great, it might not have done that for me. And that changed my world. So like, if you're going to share your fucking inspirational quotes on Instagram, then step up. Like, make the thing that could change the world. Make the thing that could affect someone. Don't just give me Mickey Mouse bullshit that's going to get views.
I look at both you and Jimmy as pioneers, but for very different reasons and seemingly with very different motivations. You strike me as someone that was really inspired by the art form and the storytelling side of like the creative production process. And Jimmy took this, it seems like he took this other approach where it was much more about what the data was telling him to make.
Yeah.
Both of them created originality though.
Completely.
You know?
Completely. I think Jimmy is, in the history of, I think Jimmy is the most important YouTuber in the history of YouTube. And I think that arguably, I think he's one of the most important people in the history of entertainment, full stop. I don't know that anyone has built an empire that reaches as many people as what he's doing. I think like there will be case studies taught about him at Harvard. I think what he is a true pioneer in every sense of the word.
Do you care about the views?
No, but that's easy to say. I'm like, I don't worry about paying rent anymore. And like, I usually don't check the prices at restaurants before I order dinner. So it's easy for me to say. Obviously, like there was a time when that really mattered to me and was super, super important to me. But I've grown up and I've, a level of financial security, which is super real. So it's less about that and more about doing good work.
If one of your kids came to you and they said, "Dad, I want to be a YouTuber," and what would be your response to just that first surface level question?
I mean, it's happened. Little Francine is like, she's so good too, but Candace always gets not mad, but she's always like, "Take it easy, Casey," because I have a tendency to over intellectualize it. But I'm like, Franny, you can make whatever you want, but you're not allowed to share it. And she's like, "Why? I want to get subscribers and views." And I'm like, "Well, if you make it, like I just want to make sure you're making it for you because you want to make something, not because you're looking for that." I don't know words I use with her, but like that validation. I don't know if she would know that word, but and that's when Candace is like, "Take it easy, Casey. She's 8." And I'm like, "Okay, all right, just do your thing, kiddo." But yeah, I think like the concern.
What is the concern?
Is why. Like if she wants to do it because she wants to be an artist, fuck yes. I will drop everything to help you on this mission. If you want to do it because your little girlfriend at school did it and she got 35 likes and you want to get more likes than her, then like pump the brakes, kid. Like that's.
What if she says, "I want to be bigger than Mr. Beast"?
The same thing. Then, it's like, why? Like, why? Why do you want to do that? And also like, fame is a very weird, very strange thing. And I think that what the most strange thing about fame is it's not what you think. Like there are people who have achieved and felt some degree of fame and there are people who haven't. And if you're in the haven't camp, there's no way to understand the have camp. There's no way. There's no way. And having been over here, like to see someone aspire for that is like, I like no way.
What's the warning?
The warning is just like if fame is a byproduct of what you're doing, then it is what it is. But if fame is the end game, then you're just like one of those fucking reality stars with the fucked up faces because you've had so much plastic surgery. And like, what are you doing? What are you offering the world? Like, why are you here? Like you're benefiting the world in no way whatsoever. You're elevating the world zero. This is pure like narcissism. This is just for some weird ego journey that you're on. Again, this is one of those moments that my wife would be like, "Back off, Casey. She's 8. Let her finish her mac and cheese." I wouldn't say it to the kid, but like, yeah, if she says, "I want to be bigger than Mr. Beast," like, then yeah, I get nervous.
What if she says, "Okay, I want to make YouTube videos because I love creating videos, but I would like some advice, Dad, on how to be a successful YouTuber."
Yeah, you should see her. She has a whole channel that is stop frame animations of her stuffed animals.
Right.
She's not allowed to have her voice in it or her hands in it. You're not allowed to identify that it's in our apartment.
Okay.
But she makes those and they're fucking great and they're funny and they're really good. So that like, yeah, we support her so much. We buy her the equipment, we help her make it. We're part of the audience. We have like a family iMessage thread that we distribute the videos on. She even has her own Instagram handle that has 0 followers. Candace and I don't follow it. We pass the phone around to watch her Instagrams because we don't want her to even associate one like with why she's doing it.
Jesus Christ, dude. I'm looking at my main task for the day and I'm realizing that there's some issue where I can't even see.
Can you send me her account? We're like, no.
I can't even see the asset catalog.
Your experiences, right?
Protect them as long as you can, man. Keep the kids so far away from that.
Keep them far away from views and likes.
Yeah, from seeking validation.
Did you ever fall prey to that?
Did I ever fall prey to that? Yeah, but I'm different because I was old. Like I was literally your age that you are right now sitting across from me before I had an Instagram account. Think about how much more you know than an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
Like for an 8-year-old, that's the world that she's growing up in. It's a really scary place. Like social media, we're seeing how much it fucks kids up. We're seeing the mental health crisis. We're seeing how it's manifesting. We're seeing eating disorders because of Instagram. We're seeing like all of these social issues because of social media. And I think wanting to protect your kids from that is sort of a universal thing, not just someone who has lived in that space. I think I've had a unique experience with it because I had achieved some level of success outside of social media in the world of regular old media. And then it was on social media that I found real success.
Okay, that scared me. Sorry, I know you guys don't know what I'm working on. I was looking at asset catalog, and I saw it was empty, and I'm like, why is this empty? And I was about to have a panic attack over here.
Success.
Yeah.
Was that due to your daily vlog predominantly? Was that the real catalyst moment?
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna have to mute this in a bit to take this meeting, last meeting of the day, and then I'm free.
That we sold to HBO in 2008, and that
Freedom.
exactly my daily vlog. Full stop.
Only 8 episodes or something, wasn't it?
8 episodes,
Yeah.
22 minutes, 22 to 24-minute episodes. But if you watch that daily show, it looks like an early version of my vlog. It's identical. It's the same exact shit. But that was before YouTube was really a thing. YouTube was invented in 2000 or launched in 2006. And it was really just a place for watching like basketball highlight reels and like Charlie Bit My Finger. So, we put that show on HBO. Very highly reviewed, but nobody watched it. It was on at midnight on Friday nights. Like it wasn't a breakout success. And then Van moved to California, so I was kind of on my own. And I was like, I just want to do that.
It's not the 16th. I don't know why my soundboard has like the wrong time and date on it.
And they didn't get it. They're like, we know this is great. Like I showed it to someone there and they brought me in and I met with the heads of MTV and like met with some really powerful people. And they're like, this is unlike anything we've ever seen. This is fantastic, but we're not sure this works on TV. I was like, okay, cool. And then I put it on YouTube.
And how did that go?
Well, you talked about the numbers before. Like, so before my daily vlog, I was considered like a successful YouTuber, like a celebrated YouTuber. I think it was 280,000 subscribers. And it had taken me almost a decade.
Nowadays, that's like nothing.
I started my YouTube channel in 2007, maybe. And by 2014, 2015,
okay, guys, I'm going to be muting the chat so that we can join this meeting.
5-10 million views. All of my movies did more than like 50, 60,000 views, which is amazing. And people liked my videos. Like the New York Times saw my YouTube videos and like make videos for us. I was doing that back then. So by all definition, very successful on YouTube. But then I started my daily vlog. And it took whatever that was, 8 years to go from 0 to a couple 100,000 subscribers. And my daily vlog went from a couple 100,000 subscribers to 10 million subscribers in like 18 months. It was a kind of like explosion that I had never felt in any other capacity in my career, my life.
What's the lesson that you take away from that about consistency or compounding or,
Yeah, that's that thing, patience. I wasn't really doing anything different. I mean, certainly I was working much harder to create a video every day. It was hard work. But really, it was just like I had this square peg and I tried to knock it through thousands of round holes for 15 years. And like sometimes I was able to jam it through and sometimes it would kind of fall through, but I wasn't able to duplicate it. And then all of a sudden, like the moon's aligned, like the fucking planets aligned, Pluto was lined up, the sun shined through, like Raiders of the Lost Ark, the light came through, the city illuminated. And like 2015, YouTube was just becoming something more. It's the first generation that grew up on YouTube. Like it'd been around for, 9 years and people had a relationship with this platform. And no one was doing anything of any significant production quality. And I had 15 years of experience in making short videos. And I brought all of that to YouTube. And then just the episodic aspect of it. So it was like, make one video of me running around New York City, hanging around with my wife, having lunch, doing something else. And then the video's over. And it's like, oh, who's this funny looking guy in New York? Whatever. Do that 7 days in a row. And you're like, oh, this is kind of fun. I get to hang out with this guy. do it 300 days in a row. And it's like, I've become part of your life. And that just snowballs. Like it snowballs in every way. It snowballs algorithmically. And that's what that quantitative explosion was. It snowballs financially because you get paid whatever, call it 1/10 of a cent per view. And that doesn't mean much if you're getting 10 views. But if you're getting 100 million views, the money starts to become substantive. Brands, the kinds of companies you always wanted to work with, maybe 1 out of every 100 creative directors at an agency has seen your videos, but all of a sudden you go from getting 100,000 a month to 100 million a month. And now every creative director has seen your videos. They're like, we want to work with that guy. And it just was, it happened so quick and was so explosive and so exciting and so fun.
Sounds like that was your anvil moment in some respects, like you'd put in 15 years of work and then your craft and patience had met opportunity in a way. And people might look at those moments and go, oh, that was, that's luck because, but what is the rebuttal to that? What's the like?
They're right. It was luck.
Yeah,
but like luck is, what is it? Luck is where preparation meets opportunity.
I forgot that this meeting is a refinement meeting for me, so I won't be talking in the meeting, but I will still keep the mic muted because I don't want to disclose anything that should be covered by NDA.
I was seeking it for that long. And, there's some other circumstances too. My friend Max pointed this out to me when he and I were having a meeting last week, which was like, when I launched that YouTube channel, the daily vlog rather, when I launched that in 2015, I had a show on HBO that they bought for $2 million. I had movies that I produced, 2 of them in the Cannes Film Festival. I won the Cassavetes Award at the Independent Spirit Awards, which was like the Academy Awards for indie films. Like I worked for the New York Times. I made movies for Nike. I had worked for myself at that point in time for 12 years in my own studio. I had by every definition achieved success. But at the exact time I launched that YouTube channel, I was $200,000 in debt. Meaning I was more broke then than when I was on welfare getting checks for my kid because I was so deep in debt. Because, the year preceding that, I was invited to MIT. As a fellow. And as a high school dropout, it was like no greater honor than to go to one of the most prestigious academic institutions on the planet and be invited there. And I remember going there being like, whatever I do on the other side of this is going to be different from what I'm doing now. And what I was doing then was making TV commercials and doing fun stuff like that, a good career.
Around that time, you read this book.
Yeah.
What was so inspiring or perspective shifting about that book, Hatching Twitter?
It wasn't around that time. So I went to MIT as a fellow. Mm-hmm. I worked out of the MIT Media Lab. And my lab group was called the Social Computing Group. Mm-hmm. And it was, 8 or 10 technologists, 1 artist who was a painter, and then me.
Okay, guys. What I think I'm going to do in this case is I am going to go ahead and end the stream so I can finish this meeting up because it's kind of an important meeting this time. End the stream. Finish the meeting up. When the meeting is over, I will reinitiate the stream and we will continue. And I'll be able to give this stream 100%.
I didn't have any friends. I was living in Boston. My pregnant wife was alone in New York City hating me.
So thank you guys for watching. I really do